Happy Wednesday. As you can see in the title, Unhinged Liberals and Democrat Wednesday. They always tripping. Check it out with me.
Former MSNBC host Joy Reid, a thoroughly awful media personality with the sort of opinions that are so crazy that you wonder whether she's serious about them. Here she compares the brutal, backward Islamist regime in Iran to the US. Apparently, women in both countries have it bad.
Now, I'm not saying that that regime is not bad. But by the way, our regime is not good. Our regime has secret police. They have secret police. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states.
You know, sometimes comments are so profoundly stupid that they really do not deserve a response. And that's an example. What a hideous thing to say. But Joy wasn't done minimising the plight of genuinely oppressed women living under Islamist rule. She's now going to praise Iran.
They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. So we're marginally better, and we're doing it for Christianity. They're doing it for Islam, right?
You know, it should be illegal to be that stupid. Now to a special message from a trans activist who seems rather agitated.
No, I promised that I wouldn't do any more call-out posts, but I need to do this, okay? Hey, transphobe, I'm calling you out. You ready for this, transphobe? Okay, deal with this. What you're doing is wrong, and we're going to find you, okay? We're going to find you. So this is a call-out post to Linear Time. Linear Time, stop being so transphobic. Give trans girls the ability to go back in time and make up for pretending to be a boy for too long, okay? Linear Time.
Okay, I have to include a little local content in tonight's edition. Here is the mad rantings of a Greens MP, so you know it's going to be good. Here is Senator Nick McKim emoting wildly about Australia's support of the US and its campaign against the Iranian regime.
I mean, aren't you embarrassed? This is the guy you've hitched us to at the hip. I mean, he is a fascist, war criminal, fantasist. And you have hitched our country at the hip to him through AUKUS, through your Netanyahu
Good morning.
and their illegal war. It is humiliating.
That you wonder whether she's serious about them. Here she compares the brutal, backward Islamist regime in Iran to the US. Apparently, women in both countries have it bad.
Now, I'm not saying that that regime is not bad. But by the way, our regime is not good. Our regime has secret police. They have secret police. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights.
It's crazy how they compare America to Iran.
26 states.
To overseas, period. It makes no sense.
Comments are so profoundly stupid that they really do not deserve a response. And that's an example. What a hideous thing to say. But Joy wasn't done.
Look at the 1,500 subscribers. 1,500. Why not?
Islamist rule. She's now going to praise Iran.
They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. So we're marginally better, and we're doing it for Christianity. They're doing it for Islam, right?
You know, it should be illegal to be that stupid. Now to a special message from a trans activist who seems rather agitated.
No, I promised that I wouldn't do any more call-out posts, but I need to do this, okay? Hey, transphobe, I'm calling you out. You ready for this, transphobe? Okay, deal with this. What you're doing is wrong, and we're going to find you, okay? We're going to find you. So this is a call-out post to Linear Time. Linear Time, stop being so transphobic. Give trans girls the ability to go back in time and make up for pretending to be a boy for too long, okay? Linear Time.
Okay.
Wow.
I have to include a little local content in tonight's edition. Here is the mad rantings of a Greens MP, so you know it's going to be good. Here is Senator Nick McKim emoting wildly about Australia's support of the US and its campaign against the Iranian regime.
I mean, aren't you embarrassed? This is the guy you've hitched us to at the hip. I mean, he is a fascist, war criminal, fantasist, and you have hitched our country at the hip to him through AUKUS, through your obsequious toadying of the war criminals Trump and Netanyahu and their illegal war. It is humiliating.
Subscribe if you haven't. Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Like and subscribe. Name's Deunta.
Humiliating, embarrassing, and degrading would be a grown man having a tantrum in the Australian Senate using the sort of language you'd expect from a not particularly bright first-year art student. Okay, to CNN now, where anchor Abby Phillip made this incredible claim about an Islamist terror attack in New York City.
2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong here after an attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson says nothing really to condemn those comments.
Say what now? The Islamists were targeting the Muslim mayor, really? And she somehow found a way to make the whole thing about slamming Republicans. But even by CNN's low standards, that lie was too much, and Abby was forced to issue this apology.
This morning, I issued a correction first thing in the morning on X for a mistake that I made in last night's show, but I also wanted to do so on air as well. I incorrectly said that the bombs that were...
How does she still have a show? When it comes to conservatives, she always cuss them off. They can't finish their sittings. Democrats to be on there, but just lying and lying. She don't say nothing. No transparency. Man, it's crazy.
...thrown by ISIS-inspired suspects in New York over the weekend were directed at Mayor Mamdani. They were not.
Now, I keep telling you that TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, is real. It's a real sickness that impacts cognitive function. How else do you explain this?
Who do you have more in common with, a Trump supporter or a radical Islamist?
Radical Islamist.
You saw someone wearing one of those red hats chanting, "Make America Great Again," or you saw someone shouting Allahu Akbar running down the breezeway here. Who would you feel more safe with?
The one shouting Allahu Akbar. Yeah.
You would support the radical Islamists.
Yeah.
What is it about Trump supporters that you don't think you'd get along with them so well?
I'm gay.
But you would get along
Who cares?
with the
You're
radical
American.
Islamists? Yes. And you're gay? Yes.
These people are real and they vote. Their vote counts as much as yours.
Good morning, Tony. Good morning,
Who
everybody.
identifies more with Islamists than MAGA. Now, to be clear for any simpletons watching, radical Islam has zero tolerance for homosexuality. In fact, homosexuality is considered a crime and one punishable by death in a number
MAGA,
of Islamist countries under Sharia law. But let's hear more craziness from the modern left who fear people who want to make America great again more than those who want to literally kill them.
What is a bigger threat to America today? Radical Islam or Trump supporters?
Trump supporters. I'll say Trump.
Trump supporters in MAGA.
Yeah.
I would say Trump supporters in MAGA. I would have to go with the Trump supporters.
Trump supporters, MAGA.
Trump supporters in MAGA.
I'd say MAGA, but we should be able to allow people to be who they are.
Yeah. Even if they're a radical Islamist.
Yes. Yeah. There's no right to judge them.
And they
Wow.
say MAGA is a cult.
Oh,
Joining me now
crazy.
is one of the OGs of the intellectual dark web.
Gotta pray for these
host of the
people.
Rubin Report, Dave Rubin.
Pray for common
Dave,
sense.
These are your fellow Americans, including gay folk who would rather stand with a radical Islamist than a Republican.
Rita, are you sure that was not what the kids call AI slop? Those were real videos.
Real videos, man. Real Americans.
Sadly real.
Great.
Real Americans
my
talking
God.
crazy.
You know what? The craziest part of all of this is that it is MAGA and it is Donald Trump who is protecting the borders to keep out the very people who would love to behead and rape and throw off roofs and other things that needn't be said on television to all of these people.
Right.
Truly, you've been saying it for a long time, but I agree with you. I think years from now, we're going to look back and say that Trump derangement syndrome was a diagnosis.
Subscribe, everybody. Name is Deunta. Subscribe if you haven't.
If they're just kind of playing along and they're trolling a little bit, but to diminish what radical Islam ideology would do to that lesbian right there. Meanwhile, she could show up to a Trump rally and people would be like, all right, you want to have a beer? That's fine. You're a lesbian. Nobody cares. I mean, Trump Trump literally has lesbians in his cabinet. Nobody cares. Scott Bessent is gay. Nobody cares. I mean, it's just absurd.
Yeah, Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. Love your enemies.
Scott Bessent on this program.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for stopping by. My name is Deunta. Appreciate you guys stopping by and being in the chat. Everybody is welcome. Let's continue.
I had no idea that he was gay, and I could not care less.
Married. Yeah, he's gay, he's married, he has kids. I talk about him on my show all the time. I virtually never bring that up because I don't like to play the identity politics that they do. But that's the point. Trump didn't hire him because he was gay. He hired him because he was
BB, good morning.
As it pertains to monetary policy, as opposed to what Democrats do, which is, oh, you're gay, let's give you a job you're not qualified for and see what happens.
Yeah, disaster happens. We saw that in the last administration. Now, it's St. Patrick's Day, where you are. We had St. Pat's yesterday. And earlier today, President Trump, in a green tie, was asked about the Irish president's comments regarding the war against the Iranian regime. Have a listen.
The Irish president has said that your war against Iran is illegal. It's an attack on international law.
Who said that?
The Irish president.
Look, he's lucky I exist. That's all I can say. Because if you're going to allow countries that are sick and demented, and they are demented, to have nuclear weapons, everybody in the whole world should be very thankful. And I'm disappointed in NATO, very disappointed. I'm disappointed in a couple of other countries too. But they should be very thankful that this group of people feels the way we do.
Dave, what's your take on the Irish president's comments and President Trump's response?
Well, Trump is extremely correct when saying that Ireland and NATO and Europe and virtually the entire free world should be very appreciative of him. Rita, I know you know this better than most as an Iranian. I mean,
yeah, subscribe. Let's get to 1,500 and more. 1,500 and more subscribers. Why not?
Israel and America together, using a force amplifier effect, that's what Pete Hegseth said about these two armies, has completely decapitated the military establishment, all of the Air Force, the Navy, and everything else. Now, it doesn't mean that the people are going to rise up tomorrow and everything's going to be easy, but we are disassembling the number one state sponsor of terror. As it pertains to the Irish president, I mean, he has a much bigger problem on his hand, which is that they've imported a tremendous amount of third world people, largely from Muslim and African countries. They are breeding way faster than native Irish people. And I hate to tell you what's going to happen to the leprechaun in about 8 to 10 years from now, which is very sad, by the way. I've been to Ireland several times. It's a wonderful, absolutely gorgeous country with incredible history and everything else. And they unfortunately have fallen to leftism. And until they wake up out of that, it'll continue.
The self-harm there is quite astonishing. Now, let's go to New York City, and we had socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani reference what he called the Palestinian genocide during a St. Pat's event.
Crazy.
As we've witnessed a genocide unfold before our eyes, there has been deafening silence from so many. For those who have long cared about universal human rights and the extension of them to Palestinians, silence, however, is nothing new, for Palestinians are so often left to weep alone.
Dave, Mamdani even compared the plight of the Irish people to, again, what he called the genocide in...
We are all one race, one human race. What's going on, y'all? Better come together. Stop being so divided.
Palestine.
Rita, I got to tell you, this is so completely absurd. And, you know, the issue is never the issue with these people. The issue is always the revolution. And his revolution puts Palestine, a country which never exists, which exists only in these people's minds to destroy countries that do exist, they put it at the top of their hierarchy of importance. There was no genocide in Palestine. It's complete farce and canard. And just think about it this way. The day Israel got their last hostage back, what happened? They pulled their military out. If they had not done October 7th, there was not one pesky Jew in Gaza, and there was nobody planning on going into Gaza. So this is all on Hamas. It's on the Palestinian people for, well, voting them in, 20 plus years ago and then never having elections again. And this guy is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I get it. He wears a nice suit and he smiles, and they give him some lo-fi music in the background. But he is a full-on radical communist / Islamist. And at every level of government, something has to do with Palestine. It makes no sense. And, I would say, fortunately for some sane people of New York, they're leaving, but it's going to leave the bill and a lot of pain for the people who can't get out.
Yeah, for the middle class and the poor, it's going to hurt.
They're going to come to your state of Florida, and I want to speak to you about that because Florida seems to be just full of people fleeing blue states, California, New York, elsewhere. But I want to ask you about CNN first. There's a curious realignment I've noticed there. We've seen the manner in which they treat anybody who leaves or is even chucked out of the MAGA movement. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is a very good example. Watch this.
You've been critical in the past of networks like CNN, but you recently started joining programs
Trader
like
Green.
ours. As you became
Trader
disillusioned
Green,
with Congress, wanted to
Marjorie
get your voice
Trader.
out. I wonder how your view of mainstream media, quote unquote, has evolved now that you've been engaging with them more, and what you think of the latest threats against the press.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for stopping by. Good morning, good morning.
I think freedom of press
All
is
is
one
welcome.
of the most important rights that
Except
we
the
have
bots, no
as
bots.
Americans.
Dave, it's incredible because she is now treated with such respect.
Anthony,
and reverence.
I'm not part of no
They
cult.
used to characterize her as some
I'm an American.
crazy, dangerous
American
conspiracy theorist not too long ago, but now she's an authority on pretty much everything.
Rita, look, I'm for freedom of speech. I'm for freedom of the press. Obviously, look what you and I do for a living, and we've been, leading the fight on this in our respective countries. But when they take someone that they hate, that they tell you is a white supremacist and a devil and everything else, and suddenly they tell you how wonderful they are, and they're appearing on our network, and they go on The View, and they pat them on the head, and they give them a cookie, and they're a hero to all of the people.
When it comes to Israel, I have no idea what's going on in Israel that much. I live in America. Other than that, I'm about America. So
people who used to hate them, you might think it has something to do with the fact you are being used, lady. Now, she wants to be used because she was not going to win her next election, which is why she stepped down from Congress anyway. But she's now going to be someone that the left told you was a
I'm glad to the channel, Anthony. So what do you think about it
now
then?
going to be a hero to the left media.
What's your opinion about
she does not like Trump. And by the way, we've been through this. We did this with Liz Cheney, who was a Republican that hated Donald Trump, who lost by 87% in her last election, but the media told you she might be
I
the
want
next
peace for
president.
everybody.
They've done this with a million people. If you betray Trump or you leave the Republican Party, you will be a hero to these people. All you have to do, I suppose, the price is just your integrity and your honor and everything else. So good luck to her.
Exactly. It's not like she's changed her mindset on really anything else other than the MAGA movement. Now, let's go to Texas, where Democrats seem to think they can capitalize on the expected midterm swings to elect this character, James Tallarico. They want him in the Senate. This is a man who has said God is non-binary. He has said so many crazy things, including white skin is a virus. And he was given a chance to apologize for those comments, perhaps take them back. He did not.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, good morning.
Every white American immunity from the virus, but we spread it wherever we go, through our words, our actions, and our systems. We don't have to be showing symptoms.
If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Let's get to 1,500 subscribers and more. Why not? Good morning, good morning.
And I think it's an important thing to recognize with all the attacks that are coming from MAGA toward our movement right now, all of them depend on taking these things out of context. All of them depend on cutting some of the.
Van the Chin, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the chat. Name is Deunta.
The worst possible light.
Turns out the quote was perfectly in context and was not in any way chopped or changed. And he did not take it back. Is he really going to
thank you guys. Why not? Thank you guys. Let's grow together. Common Sense Channel. Thank you guys.
Bananas because as you know, he was running in the Democratic primary against Jasmine Crockett, who is a total lefty loon herself, and he out lefty looned her. So if you would have said to the average person of Texas, who's the craziest person we have, Most of them 6 months ago would have said Jasmine Crockett, and this guy said, well, hold my beer, let me be even crazier. So he is absolutely
Right, facts over feelings. That's what my channel's about.
And in some sense, he's the
Facts over feelings. That's what my channel's about.
Because as
common sense.
He's a heterosexual white man. As that, he will fall on the sword. He will bend over backwards for these people in a way that even Jasmine
we scared of him.
Wouldn't have to prove that.
The man think God's non-binary. He thinks, you know what I'm saying? Nah. You need to check his hard drive. I don't trust that guy. I need to check his hard drive.
He is one of them. So, no. The answer to your question, though, is no. I don't think Texas, which has been read for a long...
He thinks Jesus is gay because he walked around with the disciples. Talking about Jesus had no job. Jesus was a carpenter.
Long time is ready to vote in someone that is this extreme. Could it have been a more moderate Democrat that could win there? Possibly. But if Texas goes that route, wow. I'm moving to the middle of Australia then.
Wow.
Get me some land.
Wow. Well, you're a proud Floridian these days, and I was just in your great state. Incredible place. Australians deciding where to go in America. Forget California. Go to Florida. You made the move from California to get away
Authority.
from the
Good morning.
the crime, the exorbitant taxes, and seems more and more successful Americans are doing that, including some big liberals, lefties like Starbucks founder Howard Schultz, who is fleeing Seattle for Florida, and Mark Zuckerberg. And let's not forget, Zuckerberg donated around $500 million of his own money to help fortify the
right. Tyreek was a Democrat. It was a Democrat. He went against Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah, and they're all moving basically 15 minutes away from me. So if I see them on the street, I'm going to have to teach them a little something about what Florida freedom is. You know, Rita, unfortunately, you and I, our paths didn't cross. We tried. It didn't work out. However, what you got to see, I have no doubt, in your week or so in Florida was a safe place that is booming in the best sense, that people are coming to and following their dreams. It's everything that the promise of America used to be in California, and now all of these people are leaving.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Wow, almost there. Thank you. And beyond. Let's get it.
Howard Schultz, who's really not a crazy lefty. Zuckerberg.
I go live Monday through Thursday, 8 in the morning until 11.
Post-COVID, all of the crazy
Monday through Thursday, go live in the morning.
That they will come here and realize what they fled to and what they were fleeing from. A state that has low taxes, that has proper policing, that basically has no homeless, that's number one in education, that's number one in tourism. These things are not, they're not random.
This is my channel.
They just happen out of thin air. They happen because of good, decent.
There are other videos of my own self. I do videos of myself as well. Shorts.
I really do hope they come there and they have that sort of wake-up call, reality check, but I do worry about the multitude of people who are coming, and obviously there's a lot of ordinary people coming, not just billionaires, that they'll just keep voting the same way, and they'll turn a place like Florida to the sort of state they've just fled from. So that is the fear, but I like you. You're a glass half full type of a guy.
Almost there.
Yeah, you smack some sense into them, Dave Rubin.
I'll just smack them around a little bit, that's all.
Dave Rubin, it's always a pleasure.
Good to see you, Rita.
Our next guest is a courageous woman of conviction. She has been verbally and physically attacked while trying to have conversations about social and political issues. Remember this?
That's the point. What I'm saying. That's really.
Despite vicious attacks and threats of violence, Savannah Craraven continues to debate the left, even if they struggle to articulate their arguments or justify their claims.
Why would you say you support ICE? Yeah, because they would get rid of these rapists and murderers that killed American women. So are all of the immigrants that come into America rapists and killers? Nope. Oh, okay, so let's get rid of these ones? Do you agree with that? Yeah. Okay, so you support ICE removing them? No. I support the condemnation, as you said, of a rapist.
Yes, it's all about condemnation. Let's bring in Savannah Craraven. Savannah, you go out of your way to be generous and gentle with these leftists, but they still manage to make fools of themselves. Have a look at this.
His name is Trump. That's a pretty racist man. How?
Give me an example of his racism.
News.
Give us an example.
Just give me one example.
Just watch the news, sweetheart. There are plenty of examples.
Watch the news, sweetheart. Give me one example that he's racist.
Okay, Trump has flat out, flat with the racism. How? Comments, concerns.
What comments? Name one comment that he said that was racist.
Okay.
If he's racist, I want to know because I don't want to support a racist.
So you support Trump?
I do, yeah. Can you tell me why he's racist?
She supports Trump.
So, okay, but why is he racist? Answer the question.
Nearly a minute now, and she has still yet to tell me one thing that Trump has said that's racist.
Okay, so if we're going to be quite honest, I couldn't give you a specific.
I know you can't.
Oh no, I'm not done speaking. I couldn't give you a specific because I don't pay attention to idiocy. And
okay.
That's idiot.
So if you're gonna call someone racist, I think you should be able to prove it.
Watch the news.
Pull up a clip where he's racist. Go ahead.
Great. I'm so glad you asked.
It must not have been racist enough to remember.
Savannah, even Googling didn't save her. She could not come up with a racist comment or incident, and yet she wholeheartedly believes it.
Absolutely. It's always about emotion with these leftists. Well, Trump makes me feel this way. Trump makes me feel that way. And it's so interesting to see, especially on the streets of New York and in major cities, where people are using their Saturdays to protest against Trump or against what the Trump administration is doing, yet they can't come up with a single reason why. And one thing that's really been exposed is that these people aren't just protesters, but rather employees. These people are being paid for it. Hilarious.
Now, tell me about the dangers you face. I showed the footage of you being assaulted on camera just before and after the violent attacks we've seen from the left. Are you questioning what you do and how you do it? I don't want to mention Charlie, but I think what happened to him would certainly be on your mind when you're out there and having these debates.
Sure. Well, of course, my safety is my number one priority because there is just one of me, like there was just one of Charlie. And I don't think it's worth it to give my life on behalf of one of these evil protesters, right? I want to continue what I'm doing. And that's why since I was assaulted, and then, of course, after Charlie Kirk was brutally murdered in front of the world, I've upped my security. .com where people can support me. I don't just ask for random donations. Anything that people give me, I so appreciate, and it goes to keeping me safe.
Now, let's go to New York, where you were speaking to a woman who is all for abortion right up to birth.
6 weeks, right? You got 6 to 12 weeks.
So
wow.
Abortion in New York is legal through all.
Stop having abortions. If y'all care about these babies, stop having abortions.
So 8 months, I should be able
Get an
to
adoption.
To abort my baby.
Yeah, why not?
Kill the rapist, not the baby. Get an adoption. Stop killing the babies, especially the black and brown community. We abort our babies like it's hotcakes.
8 months, a baby that can be
crazy.
Born is nearly full term should be able to be killed in an abortion.
It's not. The kid is not born yet. It's just cells, all right?
But they're alive. Would you
fetus, baby, newborn is a human.
It depends on the
Stop killing them.
Producing the child wants.
So, Savannah, it's just a clump of cells. Even if the baby can survive outside of the womb at 8 months. It's incredible how the same folks say they believe in science, they're pro-science, are so anti-science.
Nothing disrespect Charlie.
Issue.
Right. These are the same people that, exactly to your point, they only care if it's...
If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, everybody.
Right? So perception is reality to these people. If they don't want a child that's 8 months in the womb, they decide they don't want to be a parent, then that child isn't a child anymore. It's just a clump of cells. It's just a parasite, and they're not alive. It's funny because continuing into this interview, she only felt uncomfortable after I repeated what she said. She said, I'm uncomfortable being on camera.
Who cares? It's not who's black when what? Largo. What does it matter?
Before you go, I just want to ask about your massive.
I mean, nobody black applied to go work at Monte Largo.
Social media followers across different platforms.
You ever thought about that? Has anybody black applied to go work there?
Arena is still.
Do you know anybody black that applied to work there and got rejected?
That conservatives are visible on social media.
Oh, it's so important. We have to continue to call out all the fake news and the propaganda that is spewed by the left, because unfortunately, you can see this by the college students that I interview. They are exposed to this, consuming it every single day. So we need to be there to fight back, to share the truth, and encourage young
He's
people.
losing it.
And unfortunately, older people, you'd think that age, a little bit of wisdom would come with it, but they need to continue to be they need to continue to be educated as well. And so we have to continue to speak out.
Yes, some of the craziest things that I've heard said when you're interviewing people who are into their 70s or perhaps even their 80s. Savannah, Craraven, thank you so much for your time tonight. Sky News has obtained exclusive footage of pro-Iranian regime protesters in Melbourne over the weekend, holding up photos of the deceased Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The people in that vision had shown up to counter-protest an organised march by pro-democracy advocates.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Blessings. The raise of 25. Yes, we do, man.
Joining me for his reaction is political activist Drew Pavlou. Drew, I've got to say personally, it is deeply troubling to see people in the streets of my city holding up pictures of an Islamist dictator who was responsible for the slaughter of tens of thousands of innocent people just this year alone.
Thank you.
Rita, why are these people in our country? Why are they in our country if they hate democracy, if they support a foreign dictatorship that killed 30,000 protesters in January? They clearly believe in political violence because this is one of the most murderous dictatorships alive in the world today. And so I just don't understand why these people in Australia, how did they even get here? I mean, they're clearly not genuine refugees. They literally support the Iranian regime. So how the hell did they get to Australia claiming, refugee status, persecuted by the Iranian government, when they support the Iranian regime? They support the Ayatollah. They support killing protesters.
Right. See, so yeah, they would have been.
Iranians who support democracy. Why are they in our country? I genuinely don't know how they came here.
Trump was a Democrat himself. He just flipped to Republican. And everybody just went nuts after that because he decided to go from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party. They flipped on him. He sponsored Jesse Jackson presidency, twice? He put front money for Jesse Jackson. Looked out for Mike Tyson. A lot of black people.
Yeah, and I don't want them to be in this country if they hate us, if they hate our democracy, if they hate our values. Why are they here? Why do they live in this country if they support a foreign jihadist dictatorship?
Well, I don't know if they want.
Right. If Trump, every time Trump do bring black people to the White House, it's they all props, they all coons, they bootlickers, all Democratic words, straight from the slave masters, the Dixiecrats. So anything, if Trump do bring black people to Mar-a-Lago, it's a publicity stunt. Bullshit. The man is doing what he's supposed to do. He's human.
Want to kill anybody, but they certainly support that Iranian regime. And your point is 100% valid, because if you align yourself with that regime, then live under that regime. What are you doing in Australia?
Right, she lived in a hotel for some years, right? The black woman
around the world who are wanting
sent
to
flowers to her room every day. They said.
Oppression. But if you stand with the oppressors, go live in those countries. It really is
almost there. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You have those values. You'd want to live in the West, anywhere in the West. Now, Drew, you've been making headlines. You've been making headlines yourself with your investigation into NDIS outlets with compliance breaches. The cost of the NDIS is exploding, as we know, talking over $50 billion annually. And you and Peter Zagoulas uncovered alleged overcharging with multiple businesses within the NDIS. What's the latest on that?
Look, Rita, we've had more than 2 police raids as a result of our investigation. So we're doing the work of the government for them. It's beautiful. I'm so proud.
Right, take care of Jennifer Hudson. Come on, man.
In relation to our one police raid was linked to a tobacco shop that was selling on camera.
Joe Biden stayed in the basement in Delaware.
He was a Hezbollah supporter. We looked at his Facebook page. He was a Hezbollah supporter. Again, why are these people in our country? This guy supported Nasrallah. He supported Khamenei on his Facebook page. His tobacco shop got raided. We won't go into any details because of the legals, but it's just amazing. Why is there this sort of web of fraud and
yeah, we all heavily sent. Yes,
and
we
it's funny
are.
that it's also linked to, sometimes Islamic extremism, Islamic terrorism, support for Hezbollah, Iranian regime. Why is this happening in our country? Why are we being boarded by people who essentially just hate our country, hate our values, hate the West? I don't like it. I genuinely don't like it. That's why we're doing what we're doing, because we want to try expose fraud. And whether it's somebody who is, a supporter of Hezbollah or somebody who, is Australian, we will expose fraud. But it is genuinely alarming and disturbing when it's even connected to extremism, foreign extremist groups as well. I just can't believe it.
And you've got tips coming in, people, whistleblowers reaching out to you. In the past week, you have received over 100 tip-offs regarding alleged NDIS fraud. And you recently investigated an NDIS provider in Western Sydney, which happened to be in the same location as an NDIS company that the government shut down for fraud just 4 months earlier. Same address, same accountant, same phone numbers. And after you confronted them, they proceeded to break your sunglasses and they were quite agitated. Let's have a look.
Oh my God. Hey. This lady right here just broke my meta glasses because of this question.
Is this a legitimate business?
Bro, get out.
Hey,
Get out.
that's assault because this is my
That's
property.
assault.
You can't actually touch me.
What the heck? Oh, my officer. Boy, here. I gotta call the police. You understand?
Hey. You broke my
I
glasses.
don't care whatever you're gonna say.
You broke my glasses.
Yes, I don't care. The police coming out of my
That's
office.
assault, actually. Is this a legitimate NDIS business?
Is that your business?
Well, is it legitimate? I just want to know.
No. Just answer the question. Is that your business? I'm not gonna speak to anyone.
Are you seeing this?
Oh, no, here.
You know how you're looking? Do you understand how you look in this
I'm
situation?
looking bright and beautiful. Don't think to come to Santa Clara. Oh, you're gonna be in the trouble.
True, those ladies seem a little mad with you.
Oh, look, a very professional business, very legitimate, of course. This is the type of behavior you expect from a professional business, physically assaulting people, screaming slurs. I think at one time they screamed the word retard at Pete and I, which is extraordinary because these guys are literally working in disability provider services. So, of course, these people are extremely professional, extremely legitimate. I think it's great that they are working in this sector. I gave them 5 stars on Google. I said they broke my mate's glasses, but apart from that, great professional service. And look, we are still digging into this story. There's more to come. But what we've heard is there have been raids in relation to this business.
Drew Pavler, you're doing fantastic work. And as we go into the break, let's just have a look at this.
For violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. Today, on the Best Ever Ellison Show, we continue the saga of why Black Democrats are the crookedest politicians in the world. Yeah, we're going to talk about Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott and the fact that he's having some problems up there in BMO. And we're going to talk about Don Lemon getting sued by the parishioners whose church service he violated in January, and how they're going to try to take everything Don Lemon got, and how the NAACP Image Awards applauded Don Lemon for violating the KKK Act. Can't make this stuff up, man.
How a black man violate the KKK Act, like he said?
So we're going to talk about that today on the Best Ever Ellison Show. Surmise that. But it's like a black Democrat is like twice as crooked. See, white liberal Democrats are just basically evil. I mean, you know, a lot of them got money and they just low down. They just want to kill babies and transition people and mess with children. Black Democrats are just crooks. They just want to steal. They don't believe anything. See, here's the sad thing
Let's
about
get it. Let's get
most of
it.
this crap that these white liberals got them doing, they don't believe that stuff. I think that makes them worse. White liberals really believe the foolishness they're doing. They actually believe that you can transition children and that babies aren't worth anything. You should kill them up to the 9th month, and that Jesus and God aren't real, and you know they don't believe in.
Damn!
Black Democrats don't believe in that.
What happened?
They just greedy. They want money, and whoever will give them money, they'll do what.
Haha, you using the exact words the slave master used back in the South. You from the South?
Say. They don't care. They will allow children to be transitioned. Suckers will allow the church to be corrupted. They will keep their children locked in failing schools. They'll let dope be sold on the street. Not like Jesse Jackson. They'll be sending their children to the best private schools in the country while they are allowing these white liberals to destroy their communities. This is kind of where this little guy Brandon Scott is up in Maryland.
Yeah, they sure did. They had the
I mean, it's not nothing different. I mean, the
abortion mobile ethics. Yep, they sure did.
She's got a corruption charge. The city councilwoman.
Wow. Thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oklahoma got a corruption charge.
Thank you guys. 100, man. All up. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Money, they start showing out. So what did Brandon do? Well, they said Brandon Johnson took $890,000 on meals and parties.
Yeah, we gotta do better.
And then took $160,000 bought himself a car. Got to have that car. $160,000 car. And then his fiance had this little nonprofit. Be More Empowered. Be in Baltimore. Be More Empowered. And they said Brandon make sure she got like a grant for close to $100,000, and they went to the address of where Be More Empowered was, and it's boarded up. Went to another address where Be More Empowered was, and it was boarded up. So they're concluding that Brandon gave her a sweetheart deal of $100,000. And Brandon just might be in a hell of a lot of trouble. And I don't know what makes these jokers think they're going to never get caught. I'm believing a lot of them are not getting caught. These jokers are crooked as a barrel of snakes. These are just the ones getting caught. Can you imagine what the ones who are not getting caught are doing? They have more ways of stealing money. This little dude up in D.C., Trayon White, I think his name is, he got caught stealing. When I was up in Silver Spring, Maryland, it was like about 4 or 5 of them suckers went down for stealing. All of them black. On the city council, selling their votes. And you say, if these are the ones they're catching, what's going on with the ones that they're not, the ones that are smart, right? The ones that know how to hide the money. So Brandon going down, they said Baltimore is doing a whole lot better. It's doing better because Donald Trump keeping all the illegals and the drugs out, locking jokers up. Believe me, there's nothing they're doing in Baltimore. There are 2 things happening in these big cities that are cleaning them up. Number one, Donald Trump is sending in the National Guards that are locking up criminals. And when you're locking up criminals in L.A. and in Memphis, you're locking them up all over the place because they travel. They don't just stay in one city. These jokers move. If they're selling, if you get one big dope dealer, he's selling dope all over the country. He's not just selling dope in Memphis. They know how to get in the car and drive, okay? So if you mess up, and if you're blowing up drug boats in the Caribbean that's coming to America, you're messing up the drug supply. And when you mess up the drug supply, you're messing up jokers that can get caught going to jail for selling drugs, and you're messing up people who basically would go to jail for doing ignorant stuff when they're on drugs. And the whole system just kind of cleans itself up. So these big cities, the crime rate has gone down. The lowest crime rate that we've had in 120 years. Just based on the fact that Donald Trump is just killing the drug supply. He's keeping the illegals out. There's no dope on the streets hardly. You can't sell dope. You can't go to jail for selling dope. If you can't buy dope, you can't be on the street shooting and fighting because of dope. You might need to go find yourself a job because there's no dope to sell. See how this works? So Brandon Johnson didn't do anything to cause this. This is all coming from Trump doing two things: closing that border, blowing up drug boats. And because of that, crime is going down in the United States of America. But Brandon got himself in some hot water. And they own it. They own Brandon like stank on a skunk. He just have to find his way out of this. And if he didn't do it, like I said, he hadn't gone down yet. But he'll have to fight his way out of this. If he didn't do it, God bless him. If he did do it, he's got to go down. But they have to learn how, when they become, mayors and city councils and whatnot, to not spend money like drunk sailors. Michael Steele, the turncoat that's on MSNBC now, got kicked out of RNC for the same reason. Now the Democrats love him because he's mad. Michael Steele got up there and started spending money like he was crazy at the RNC. They kicked him out, so he turned coat and went over to the MSNBC.
Right.
Now they got some little stank show on MSNBC every night. I mean, Michael Steele actually had the Republican nomination for Senate in the state of Maryland about 20 years ago. You wouldn't know it now, would you? Mike also was lieutenant governor of the state of Maryland. He's on the RNC. Now Mike is like, you talking about traitor. Ain't you glad that sucker didn't win? Wow. But these black Democrats, when they get over to money, but that should have showed you right there that Michael Steele was a Democrat because of the way he dealt with the money at the RNC. People see money and they just act like, I got a bucket with a machine gun. Shooting all over the place. So, okay, Brandon, you be all you can be, man. But it's a sad
music with a message. Right on, man. You're right.
As a black American, see these people given positions of power and trust. And then they do what they do. But again, it's the Democratic Party. The only type of person that would run on the Democratic Party it's got to be a crook. It's got to be a person with no character. It's got to be a person that's no good. And that's what these people are. Case in point, it's talking about Don Lemon.
Uh-oh.
Don Lemon. Don Lemon got a group of folks that follow him. We call them Lemon Nation. It sounds about like what it's supposed to be. I ain't gonna go.
No, football, you're right.
Nation. That's
what happened.
He suck lemons, and he calls it lemon. I don't want to go no further with that, okay? Anyway, well, Don Lemon, y'all know the story. Don Lemon got charged with the federal KKK Act because Don Lemon went into a church and held up the services and harassed the people and threatened them. Now let's go and understand what the KKK Act is. Reconstruction's going on. The slaves had been freed. The Ku Klux Klan wanted to intimidate the slaves into not voting and doing what they told them to do. Black slaves would go to church, and they would be in these churches, and sometimes they'd be having church services, but sometimes they would be having political meetings. They would, because the church was the only building they had where crowds of people could meet. And the Ku Klux Klan would come into the church, and because these black men were scared or stupid, I don't know why you would have a meeting like that, knowing that the Ku Klux Klan was around and not have guns and knives and baseball bats, because you know they're coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, Klan show up. I guess these guys have even got guards out there watching, because Klan will come in and, of course, just beat the hell out of everybody in the church. Sometimes set the church on fire. And so then when the cowardly black men will go and tell the sheriff about it, they'd find out that the sheriff was with the Klan that night. These Democrats, right? Yeah, the Ku Klux Klan was the military wing of the Democratic Party down south. So the Democrats would beat the hell out of black folks in their churches. And the black men wouldn't fight back. So they would go to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, "I hell with y'all, I'm with the Klan." So finally, the Republicans heard about it up in Washington, D.C. And they told us, and so they told the soldiers to do something about it. The soldiers said, "We're going to need a law. Because that's kind of out of our jurisdiction. We can't just, we're here to kill people and, do soldier stuff. We're in a police force." So the Congress passed a law saying that this is a federal offense because these people's right to practice their religion is a constitutional right protected by the federal government. And then we give the military permission to arrest anyone and federal officers to arrest anyone that goes to these church services while these people are practicing their constitutional rights and violating it. Well, when they passed that, the Union soldiers shut that mess down. They were going to arrest the Ku Klux Klan and put them in jail, and that stopped the Klan. They eradicated them. Well, that act just kind of stayed dead for a minute, and then during the Civil Rights Movement, they brought it back up again and shut the Klan down again. Well, this time the Democrats decided to do it up north, and they decided to do it in a white church. And guess who's with them, y'all? Don Lemon. Sweetness. So Don took his ignorant behind up there and did this, and now Don Lemon is getting sued by the parishioners of the white church. Now, isn't that something?
Right.
You got white
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
a black man for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. We have come full circle in America. Let me tell you this again. We got white folks suing a black, well, I don't know if Don Lemon's a man or not, a black person.
Petty Burger Dress. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Ku Klux Klan Act. So, to make it, as Muhammad Ali would say, worse, to make it worse, the NAACP decided to give Don Lemon 4 NAACP Image Awards for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. What was the award? Let me see. What did Don Lemon do? Okay, outstanding host in a talk series or special, and outstanding news information. So Don Lemon, he got 4, but those just 2 of them. Don Lemon got 4 NAACP Image Awards. Oh, and he's just so happy.
I used to think that these were the only trophies that I needed. These 2 little statues right here. But I have 4 new statues coming. 4 NAACP Image Awards. I mean, crazy. We swept every category that we were nominated in. We won. Thank you, Lemon Nation. Thank you to Team Lemon. Amazing. I don't even know what to say. It's just, right, Barkley? I don't know what to say, right? Thank you. Say thank you, Barks. Say thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm really just overwhelmed. Support independent media, independent journalists. We're out here doing the work. So thank you, NAACP, and to Lemon Nation, and to all the supporters.
Lemon Nation, what the?
Big win for us.
Oh, he just pranced around with his little dog and with his husband, holding hands and everything. So Don Lemon is an openly gay sodomite, anti-Christian bigot, who goes to a church and violates these people's First Amendment right to freedom of religion. He violates the Ku Klux Klan Act. And the NAACP gives him 4 awards for it. Black people are now violating the Ku Klux Klan Act and getting awards from black organizations for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. They're getting awards from the NAACP for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. This is insanity, but if nothing tells you how far the Democratic Party has fallen, nothing exposes them or black people more than this. This is a shame. And they're celebrating it. I hope they take everything Don Lemon got to his pink panties. I hope the courts take everything that Negro had He's a disgrace to everything. He's a disgrace to humanity. And the NAACP is going to hold that miscreant up as a paradigm of virtue. To tell young black men and women, this is who you aspire to be. A pervert that violates the freedom of religion and violates the Ku Klux Klan Act in the United States of America. Don Lemon might be the first black man in America that ever got charged with violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. And he's celebrated. You know what, folks? If this doesn't wake you up, nothing should. I'm looking at it. I'm not surprised. I think it's comic gold, but I also think it's illustrative. And it's going to pull the veil off of the conspirators in the black community. We're going to find out now. Yeah. You know, when we start talking about that, there's going to be a time of the separation of the wheat and the chaff. This is the separation now. You don't even hide no more. It's like when Moses said when he came down from the mountain and he had the 10 Commandments and the children of Israel had gone into idolatry. They had built a golden calf and they were bowing to it. And Moses asked one question: who is on God's side? Come with me. That's the question that's being asked now. Who is on the Lord's side? You don't have to worry about whether or not God is on your side. You better worry whether or not you're on his side. Worry whether or not you are on God's side.
Amen.
The wheat and the chaff are being separated now, y'all. I hope you hear it. I hope you respond. I hope you respond with your lifestyle. And part of your lifestyle is your vote. You cannot vote for evil deeds and expect to say you're on God's side. You can't vote to castrate little boys and call them little girls. Cut off the breast of little girls and call them little boys. You have these perverts go into the bathroom with your daughters and say that it's okay to allow drugs to come across the border, sex trafficking, to allow your children to have a secular education that teaches them these terrible, terrible things. We are paying for it now as a people, but God has stayed his hand. And if he ever removes it, we're done. I think we get to a point where he's about to lose his patience with us when we acknowledge who we celebrate and how we blaspheme toward him. In this Don Lemon case is a harbinger. What they did at Jesse Jackson's funeral is a harbinger.
Man, totally disrespectful. Man.
They're telling you exactly who they are.
God bless. Yes, God bless all his children. Yes, yes.
And if you support them, you deserve what you get. But I believe there are enough out there that are going to say, for God I live, for God I die. Though he slay me, yet I trust him. And that's, I know my Redeemer lives.
Again, thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Let's grow. Let's grow. Let's grow. Let's grow.
You must believe that and live your lives accordingly. And I'm going to keep bringing this to you because I'm in a
wake you up.
Hope I did you some good here today.
Oh, yeah.
So join me again for another edition of the Vince Everett Ellison Show.
This is for the black men in my comments saying protect this queen at all costs and finally a black woman with a better mindset. Ooh, it's because I'm a conservative. Yeah, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a conservative. And a lot of black men consistently vote Democrat, even though you hate what the Democrat ideology is doing to black women. The fact is, the feminist movement lumped itself in with the Democrat Party, and black women have been the worst recipients of the feminist ideology. Being told that we are equal to men made us think that we don't need to respect black men. Black men do not want to put up with someone who wants to argue with you about everything, who will not let you do what you are meant to do and lead the household, right? You don't want to put up with someone who wants to unalive your unborn child because it's her body, her choice. You want someone who doesn't view herself as your equal, but as your partner, right? You want someone who respects and even appreciates your masculinity and doesn't call you toxic because you don't want to cry every single second. And someone who doesn't say, I need to see your emotions more, but the moment you say it makes me uncomfortable for you to wear that, she tells you that you're a simp or you're trying to infringe on her rights as a woman, her ability to choose what she wants to do. You don't want to deal with all of that, guys. You just don't. And what we need to do as a Black community is wake up to the lies that the left has been telling us, acknowledge and accept that you actually believe in more traditional conservative values. You've just been tricked into believing that the conservative party is full of racists. I'm here to tell you, as a Black woman, that is not true. That's a lie spread by the left. Guys, take a moment this year. Go over the actual ideology of each party. Decide what you want your life to look like, what you want your family to look like, and then decide whether or not you're going to continue to vote blue. Because we've been voting blue since the 50s, and all we have is, honestly, more Black women doing OnlyFans, more Black women selling their bodies to the highest bidder, and less loving, supporting Black wives.
Ooh, she could.
Cooking.
Totally right, but I'm gonna go and take it a step further. I'm going to say men in general prefer conservative women. That's why you have so many men, regardless of race, grabbing passports and trying to go overseas, looking for more traditional conservative women. That's just the thing. It's not just in the Black community, it's all communities.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Stuart. Yep,
she had Western ideology.
You're 1,000% right.
The feminist movement that started with white women in this country. Black women picked up the torch. Hispanic women have a little bit.
Thank you, Cecil. Thank you for the gift, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Been indoctrinated on these college campuses. It's one of the most demonic ideologies on the planet. It just is. And that's why you have so many women that are lonely. They're suffering from mental health issues.
Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, man. Blessings. Thank you.
Mental health problems.
Thank you, Cecil. Thank you.
Man, because it is not an ideology that is rooted in biblical or in a biblical.
Thank you.
And anything outside of God's ordained.
Name is Deunta.
It's toxic. Simple as that. We're seeing it. We're seeing women live this out. Shout out to this sister here, but I think it's across the board, regardless of race in this nation, men prefer conservative women. At least real men, strong men that are that have a relationship and a fear of God. We want conservative women. Simple as that. Thankfully, I've been blessed enough with one. And I know so many others out there, they're looking for the same. Hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep going.
We've been duped this last decade and a half or so. Matter of fact, the last 60 years, because even after slavery from 1865 to 1965, we were thriving. In the midst of racism, we were going strong. Our families were strong. We had businesses. Black Wall Street, we was going strong. First attack of the enemy was...
And the Democrats destroyed it. The Democrat destroyed Black Wall Street.
Let me split up the family. Incentivize the woman not to have the man in the house because we're going to pay her to have babies as long as the father's not there. And if the family was the cause of our downfall, then getting our families back together will be the salvation. However, over the last 15 years, we've been told that our problem is racism. Our problem is what happened back in the 1800s, 1700s, when we were enslaved. Because you were a slave, you don't know how to be faithful to one woman. You don't know how to be there for your child because you were slaves. Now, my question is, what happened between 1865 and 1965? And did the slavery gene skip a whole 100 years and it skipped them and went straight to 1965? No, I'm going to tell you what happened. What happened was we left our women, we left our children, and we gave ourselves to filthy things like gang culture and hip hop. Gave ourselves to things that were going to keep our mind rooted.
The party never switched.
Down in the old man. That is what's happened to us. The problem is not the white man keeping us down. And I want to propose that the white man's struggling now too. Because the same disease of family brokenness is hitting the white
Thomas,
community.
the party never switched,
And
Thomas.
they struggling too. It's not the white man. The problem is we have left the word of God. We have left the basic things of life. Like you grow up, you find a woman, you love that woman, you marry that woman, y'all have some children, you train your children, you teach your children, they grow up, they find a woman, they love that woman, they marry that woman, they have some children, they teach their children, they grow
He
up,
said, stop the count. I'm finna prove it to you right here.
But no, we want to count how many baby mamas we got, how many women we slept with, how many babies we got all over town, and none of them know who you are. We call that normal. That's not normal. That's just the last 60 years, but that's not normal. But God is calling a revival. He said, I'm taking you out of Egypt, getting you out of that mindset. I thank God that our problem is not racism, because then we couldn't do nothing about it.
Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against. When you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party comes to mind? The Republicans or the Democrats? Most people would probably say the Democrats, but this answer is incorrect. Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s. In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories with the aim of abolishing it entirely. This effort, however, was dealt a major blow by the Supreme Court in the 1857 case.
We can do something about this.
I'm gonna give you a short version.
Child in the way that they should go. And when they're
I'm gonna give you a real quick short version. Just hold on. I'm gonna continue to play this.
they'll respect that young girl too much to mess over her. Train them up in the way that they should go, and when they get older, they respect themselves too much to shake their behind on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh man, this pastor was cooking, and he's absolutely right. He is absolutely right. He is absolutely right. They sit there and they want to say that, oh, it's racism and so forth and so. No, it is leftist ideology that has permeated our society to our detriment.
Well, since it's Black History Month, which is nothing but American history, I figured I'd let Larry Elder school those of you that are so romantically in love with the Democratic Party. Play the clip.
That Democrats founded the Klan. I didn't know when I was in high school that Democrats voted against the 13th Amendment that freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment that gave slaves citizenship, the 15th Amendment that at least on paper gave slaves the right to vote.
Who you got, Thomas?
Against all of that stuff. I didn't know when I was in high school that more Republicans as a percentage of the party voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 than did Democrats. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Everett Dirksen, a Republican in Illinois, got an award for the NAACP for how he helped to shepherd the Civil Rights Bill through Congress. I didn't know that Al Gore's father participated in what was then the longest filibuster to prevent the bill from ever becoming on the floor. I also bought into that notion that, okay, Democrats used to be racist, but then Republicans switched places with them in the 60s. I bought into that until I found out that of all the Democrats that voted against the Civil Rights Act in the House, of all the Democrats that voted against the Civil Rights Act in the Senate, only 2 switched to the Republican Party. One of whom was Strom Thurmond. George Wallace, who stood in front of the school door as a Democratic governor saying segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. He died a Democrat. Robert Byrd, who was a Kliegel, that means a recruiter for the Klan. He died a Democrat at 100 years old in the Senate. Most
Come on,
of these
Thomas,
guys
stop it.
never
Just
switched
listen.
parties. It is a lie. The reason the South became more and more Republican is because the Democratic Party became more and more left-wing, became anti-Vietnam, anti-war, pro-abortion, and the South became increasingly uncomfortable with their allegiance to the Democratic Party, especially since Jim Crow had fallen. If Jim Crow has fallen, why are we in bed with these Democrats? What's the point?
Exactly.
And so the South became more and more Republican for a reason that had nothing to do with racism. But that was the line that was fed by so many people, and so many blacks to this day believe that.
You know, it always baffles me every time this Black History Month comes around, which is nothing more than American history, that the left, the liberal, the Black KK collective group thinks, the Eeyores of color, they always say we should uplift the Black voice. But for some reason, I never see them uplift conservative Black voices. And these are the same people that run around hollering diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, my question to them is, do you support diversity like you do with race, gender, and sexuality the same way you do when it comes to diversity in thought? That's just a question. Happy Black History Month. Shout out to Larry Elder. Well, since
it's no longer just
Black History Month, which
this is a American thing, because all communities are dealing with this, except for a lot of your Asian communities. They don't really do the baby mama culture like that, especially in the Indian community. They don't do that.
Right.
But
thank you, guys. Thank you.
The better part of 50, 60 years, this
Common Sense Channel
has just set us on a path straight to hell. And things have to change, and things got to change at a very rapid rate. There are too many people out there talking about racism instead of talking about getting back to the biblical principles and the word of God.
Listen, I don't know who need to hear this, but it need to be said.
We finna cook.
I don't give a your color. I don't give a if you black, white, Asian, Puerto Rican, Mexican. I don't give a. You cannot ask for inclusion, but continue to create segregation. How that's gonna work? If you want an all-white nation, take your ass somewhere where it ain't nothing but white people, Iceland or wherever the Vikings come from. If you want an all-black nation, take your to Africa. There's plenty of us over there, and it's a bunch of them. You ain't never got to see a white person another day in your life. Mexicans, if you don't like black and white people, take your back to Mexico. Just go back. But over here in America, we rock together. We ain't got no choice but to rock together. We ain't got a choice. So we might as well find a way to get along and stop all this separation and this segregation and all that. We ain't got no choice but to like each other, man. Stop all the hate. Stop all the separation. Stop all the... Just stop.
Stop it.
Under God. Do we need to go back?
His brother, he's absolutely right, man. He's absolutely right. The language, I could have did without the language, but he's absolutely right. And the thing is that when you leave this nation, you'll really get an understanding, especially those of us that are, born and raised here. You have this American accent. When you go other places, it doesn't matter. Black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. When they hear your accent, they immediately say American. They don't say Black American, white American, Asian American. No, they say American. But that is the game plan of the left. Keep us divided and at odds with each other so we're not focused on who the actual enemy is. The sooner we come together and understand.
If you haven't subscribe. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The same things, which is the American.
I'm just sharing information. I'm not here to force nothing on nobody. Everybody's welcome to the chat. I don't care who you are. Love each other, respect each other, even love your enemies, as the Bible says. Just sharing information. I'm a Trump supporter. I believe American first. I know that much. I'm here learning with you guys. What I'm sharing with you guys, I'm learning and listening just as well. Taking it all in. Some of the stuff is saying the truth, some of the stuff is not. Do your own research. Let's continue. Like and subscribe. Name is Deunta.
And dream. We all want to.
Number one, right? God first, baby.
We want to.
God is in control.
Some property. We want to take care of our families. We want our children in good schools, and we want to rear them up, in a positive.
Let's grow.
way.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you, guys. Why not?
The problem is we don't.
Let's get 87 subscribers. Why not? 87 subscribers in the chat. Why not?
Those goals. And that enemy is called
Thank you, guys.
Party. AOC came out of her mouth and said it. Hey, we need the people. We got to hurt the people so much that they are dying for us to come in and save them.
Right.
She said it out of her own mouth. We need to believe them.
Being a Black conservative is embarrassing. I actually get that comment a lot, but if I'm being honest, I can't believe that I was ever a Democrat in the first place. And let me tell you why. The Democrat Party so many of us blindly vote for was the party of slavery. And don't worry, I'll get to the party switch. Founded in 1828, it spent more than a century as the slaveholder, the segregationist, and the opponent of civil rights. The Republican Party didn't even exist until 1854, and it was founded specifically to stop the spread of slavery.
Boom.
When the Civil War broke out, every single Confederate state was run by Democrats. Every Union state that fought to end slavery.
Time to stop criticizing everything and just listen.
After the war, nearly all Black
Or while you're doing the criticizing, do some research.
The first Black U.S. Senator, Hiram Revels of Mississippi in 1870, Republican. The first 23 Black members of Congress, all Republican. Democrats, on the other hand, fought to keep power by creating new systems of control, Black codes, sharecropping, and later Jim Crow laws. And in 1865, Democrats in the South formed the KKK, a terrorist organization built to suppress Republican votes and keep Black people
Rob Davidson, man, you
Fast
know.
forward to the 20th century, and Democrats continued to oppose civil rights at every single turn. And yet we've been told that the party's just switched. And it's simply a fallacy that's been repeated so many times that we've blindly accepted it, despite it making zero sense. They usually point to Strom Thurmond, a segregationist Democrat who switched parties in 1964. But here's the truth. Of the over 150 Democratic lawmakers who signed the Southern Manifesto opposing civil rights, only 2 ever became Republicans. 2. That is not a party switch. That is a rebrand.
Thank you. She just said it didn't switch. We know it didn't switch. It's obvious.
They figured out how to enslave us mentally. Enter the 1960s, the war on poverty. President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Democrat, rolled out massive welfare programs, aid to families with dependent children, food stamps, housing subsidies, all marketed as compassion. But here is what really happened. In the 1950s, before these programs, Black marriage rates were higher than white marriage rates. About 77% of Black children were born to 2-parent households. By the 1980s, that number had dropped below 40%, and today it's closer to 30%. That's not progress, that's collapse. And the most bitter irony is that we traded one master for another. We said no more master to the overseer, and then turned around and said, yes, master, to the DNC.
Phenomenal. Larry Elder's been talking about this for quite some time. The pastor that was earlier in this clip, he talked about it. It's the truth, man. It is the truth. I need people to take the time to do your own research. That's one of the things on this channel that I've been telling people for some time. You know, hey, listen to me. I do want you guys to listen to me, but I don't want you to believe me wholeheartedly. Take the time to do your own due diligence, your own research. Take that time. Get an understanding of who's for you and who's against you, who has been for you and who has been against you. The Democrat Party has been the party of slavery, Jim Crow, KKK, redlining. They voted against every civil rights bill that's ever been implemented. If it wasn't for the Republicans, none of the civil rights acts or bills would have ever been passed because they voted for them at an 80% clip or higher. And the Democrat Party to this day is out here to divide and oppress. And they continue to dangle the carrot. They want to be your savior. And the thing is that he who houses you, clothes you, and feeds you, they own you. I need Black folks to wake up and understand that. Quit believing that these people are your friends. They're not.
While I was in prayer was Donald Trump. Now, I know a lot of people do not like him, can't stand him, but the word of God will be released. As I was praying, the Lord said to me, I am ministering to his heart. God showed me this man giving his life to him. This man giving his life to Christ, surrendering to Christ. The reason why the Lord showed this to me was to tell the people to keep the President of the United States in prayer, that God's will be done concerning his life. Even though he's a president, he still has a soul. There's a soul within him that God desires to save. So God told me to warn the people to keep him in prayer. Do not stop praying for him. Do not stop praying that the will of God will be done. God is speaking, and And it's time for the people to wake up and heed the words of the Lord. We are living in perilous times, and many are going astray because of false doctrine, false teaching, because they choose not to accept the truth. Wake up, says God.
Yeah, the Word of God says that we should continue to keep our leaders in prayer. This is just absolutely right. Pastor Turnbull has been on it. So has Bishop Wooden. They've all said the same things. And there's been others. Apostle Williams, they've all said the same thing. We want to make sure that we keep our leaders lifted up in prayer. When Biden was in office and that administration, I'm sure, even though you didn't want to, we were still trying to keep him up in prayer, because the reality of it is, at that time, he was the president. And we want them making proper decisions, doing that will do right by us. And it's the same thing, with President Trump. There's been a lot of people that have come out and said, hey, God is using him. If you have read the book, The Paradigm by Jonathan Kahn, which if you haven't, I think you should go and check it out. It explains exactly who President Trump is. And really and truly, it goes back at least 4 administrations, and it tells you who the Clintons are, Bush, Obama, and it leads right up to President Trump. And it tells you exactly who it is. And if you take the time to read that book, The Paradigm by Jonathan Kahn, man, it will change the way you look at things. Nothing's new under the sun. Nothing is new under the sun. Everything that is happening has already happened before. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts on any of this? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family. You can buy your brother a coffee. You can support via Cash App. Those links are in the description box below. And as always, keep God first, stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Peace.
It is God who arms me with strength. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Everyone deserves health care.
Even illegals?
Every single person in the world deserves
Just for the
healthcare.
record, as a candidate, you're for illegal aliens getting medicated.
Hero, good morning, good morning.
That's a yes. That's a yes.
I mean,
That's a Democratic
it is a yes, but yeah,
It's a Democratic
everyone in the
position.
world
Illegal
deserves
aliens should
healthcare.
get medicated.
But I mean,
How is it controversial?
How is it controversial?
How is it controversial to think they want somebody to die in the hospital because they can't afford it?
Who do you think pays
Thank you,
for
guys.
healthcare
Thank you
when
so much.
undocumented
Thank
people
you.
show up at a hospital? Who pays for that?
We all pay for it.
Exactly.
including
We all
undocumented
pay
people,
for
because
it.
they actually contribute.
That's the point. That's the point.
We do realize that undocumented
Who pays for the welfare system in this country generally? Taxpayers.
Are you for it or not? Can I start my logic train?
Are you for it or not?
My logic train starts with the fact that I don't want to kick 11 million people off.
Do you want illegal aliens on or not?
Do I want first of all, do I want undocumented citizens to have health care? The answer is yes.
Abolish and prosecute ICE. We need to repeal the Patriot Act. We need to lift refugee caps, and we need to offer complete amnesty and citizenship to any immigrant here who has not committed a violent crime. Additionally, we need trials. There is no moving forward without justice. Stern words for Greg Bovino aren't enough. Body cameras aren't enough. We need people willing to put everything on the line, not when it's politically convenient, and not have the
So we got to talk about a humiliating loss for woke Gen Z firebrand cat booga 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 booga. Right, that's what I like to call it. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I think it's Abu Ghazale. I'm not entirely sure, but I just call her cat booga 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 booga. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with this young lunatic, she is the same woman that is currently facing charges for obstructing and impeding ICE. Okay, and she found out while doing that, she got tossed on her ass, right? While trying to obstruct ICE, went viral.
Get out the way, Karen. Damn.
But it is surreal to be the person on the indictment, especially because my name is really long.
What do you think about those charges, though? They seem really serious. Conspiracy to impede or injure an ICE officer, assaulting or impeding that officer. Those are pretty big charges.
The charges, I think they're actually slightly different, but no matter what the charges are in the indictment, I plan on pleading not guilty. And this is a political prosecution, plain and simple. It's an effort to criminalize free speech, an effort to criminalize free association, and an effort to criminalize the very act of protest. And so we're going to be pleading not guilty, and the evidence will come out in court, and I fully plan on winning.
Yeah, just to be clear, the indictment alleges that you and others, quote, surrounded a federal officer's vehicle, banged on its hood and windows.
Chicago Blackhawks, good. Thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for being in the chat. That's what's up.
Did you etch the word pig on the side of an officer's car?
I'm not speaking to the specifics of anything that's in the indictment right now, but like I said, I do plan on pleading not guilty, and the evidence will come out in court, and I plan on winning.
Okay, well, let's not watch the video of what happened that day that they are alleged. When you see that, what do you think right now?
Tara, once again, this is my first time being federally indicted. Like I said, I plan on pleading not guilty. The evidence will come out in court, and I plan on winning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Just really quickly, I did want to ask you about just the fact that, conspiracy to impede an officer is up to 6 years in prison, forcibly impeding and intimidating an officer is up to 8 years. Is that, that could actually hinder your ability to serve in Congress. Are you concerned about that? Did she just sign off?
Damn. What happened?
Chat? I'm so confused. I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened.
She ghosted.
Okay.
She ghosted.
Well, she left because I asked her questions about what happened that day. All right, well, I will continue with the conversation on my own, I guess. This is very bizarre. So I guess this is... I've never had that happen before. Apologies.
Yeah. So despite all of these stunts from this young radical lunatic, she still lost her primary election. Okay, Daniel Bliss won the primary election for this district out in Illinois. And now, not only is she not going to be a candidate, she is facing prison time. Right?
Sounds, what's this bootlicker Uncle Ruckus stuff, y'all? All them names came from the Democrat Party names. Get off the plantation. Stop tap dancing. Nobody MAGA or American First Person coming here and call nobody no names. It's always the Democrat side. Why?
So this young progressive lunatic was rejected by Democrat voters. Okay, this is
have an intelligent conversation. Stop calling people bootlickers and that shit's played out.
She lost and that she's going to prison.
We didn't win, and it really fucking sucks. Came really close, and it sucks. But it's something that no one in power.
Yes, it has. Since I've been on this chat, since I've been YouTubing, since I'm 43 years old as a black man, it always has been. It always has been. I'm from the west side of Chicago. Democratic city. I live in a blue state. I know what I'm talking about.
Even expected would be
shit's retarded.
At all. I need to stress to every single person in this room that this does not mean that the last year has been for nothing.
Going to jail, right? You're going to prison.
Going to jail.
That's what's about to happen.
Tens of thousands of people powered this campaign, knocking doors, making calls, donating what they could.
I'm not saying MAGA's perfect at all, but since I'm in the black man, it's been the Democratic side be going against me. So when I decided I would be a Democrat, I vote Republican. I lost friends, family, and all type of goofy shit. So it's cool. Yeah, Black Hawk, Chicago is a trip.
To the left and to be more aggressive against this administration. We did all of this together from the ground up
with everything against us. Thank you for being involved. And the work isn't over. There are progressives all over the country who are taking a chance just like we did. And we have to help.
But again, that one MAGA person called me anything negative. Or anybody that's a negative American First or conservative.
And I'm talking directly to them right now. You and your jobs are not safe.
Yeah, I was a barber on the west side of Chicago on Madison and Laramie. I used to work at a division in Austin as a security officer, armed security. I was a bartender. I did a lot of things in Chicago.
This is the start and not the end. We are not tolerating the status quo. You cannot kidnap and kill us and our neighbors. You cannot start illegal wars. You cannot trample
Yes, it is very crazy.
and see our lives as a means for profit. We will continue to come back, and every single loss like this one just makes the path easier for the next president who takes the
Thank you, guys.
We are not done, and I am not going anywhere. What I said.
Going to jail.
You're definitely going somewhere. Exactly where you belong. Free.
When I said I will spend every single waking moment of the rest of my life to hold this administration accountable, win or lose, I fucking meant it. And I know all of you do too. So thank you for supporting us. I'm sorry that this sucks, but fuck Trump, fuck ICE, free Palestine, and I love you all.
She sounds like a loser, right? This is how a loser sounds. F Trump, F ICE, free Palestine. Loser talk, right? But we do have some not so good news, okay? Out of Illinois, the same election involving the race for Senate, okay? The Democrat primary included this radical lunatic backed by J.D. Pritzker, Juliana Stratton, okay, who is a deranged liberal black woman who also ran on F Trump and F ICE, right? Like, for example, she released this ad right here.
Fuck Trump. Vote Juliana. Fuck Trump. Vote Juliana.
Fuck Trump. Vote Juliana.
They said it, not me. I'm Juliana Stratton, and I'm proud to have lived my whole life on the south side of Chicago. I'm not scared of a wannabe dictator. I'm running for Senate to stand up to Donald Trump. I'll abolish ICE and hold Trump accountable for
Get this lady, man.
Just like they
Man,
said.
she is trash.
Fuck Trump.
Fuck Trump.
Vote Juliana.
That's why I approve this message.
Wow. F Trump, vote Juliana. So it didn't work.
So what's your policies? What you got? What else we got besides fuck Trump? Nothing.
Right.
Where's your man back? That's all they're gonna run on.
I want to abolish ICE, period. I don't.
Why you want to abolish ICE? Why you want to abolish them? They federal agents doing federal jobs. How? Why?
They can be reformed.
Fire your people that protecting you. Get rid of them.
And I have been out there fighting to stand up to the terror that's been happening in our communities, and I will continue to do that. I do want to point out that Congressman Krishnamurthy has voted to thank ICE, voted to fund ICE, and has accepted money from ICE contractors with a direct call to a CTO of Palantir to fund his campaign. That's not someone who's going to stand up to Donald Trump. I want to abolish ICE.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. The only thing that these people have to run on is F Trump. That's it, man. F Trump, save illegals, right? F Trump, save illegals. Socialism, that's what it is. That's the Democrat platform at this point. Socialism, illegals, and F Trump, right? That's all they got, right? That's all they got. And unfortunately, in some primaries, that is enough to get them across the finish line. This woman was actually projected to lose going into this, so this is kind of an upset. But J.D. Pritzker poured a whole lot of money, millions of dollars, into her campaign in order to get her across the finish line. And, you know, who knows? Maybe that F Trump ad actually helped out. I don't know. Okay, I just know that if you listen to these lunatics and what they're running on, they're more radical than ever, right? And, you know, that's why it's important that people understand and realize what we're dealing with.
Yes, it will be if she gets into office.
Party, that there is no option to vote Democrat. Democrats cannot take back power and control, because if they take back power and control, they are going to undo all of the progress that President Trump has made. Has President Trump been perfect? No, he hasn't been perfect, but he's certainly been better than Biden. He's certainly been better than the Democrats on a lot of core issues. And a lot of that progress is going to get erased if Democrats take back power and control. The main thing will be immigration. They're going to refuse to deport anybody, and they're going to open back up the southern border. That's exactly what they're going to do. The main issue that got Trump elected in 2024, which he has done an A+ job on, right? You can criticize Trump for a lot of stuff. Hard to really criticize him that much on immigration, right? Democrats are going to reverse all of that, and they're going to make the problem even worse than it was under Biden, right? That's what they're going to do. So, I mean, if this country wants to go back to that, right, then, hey, it is what it is, but I don't want to go back to that. Listen to these people. Listen to what they're running on. Listen to what they're saying. This is the appetite within the Democrat Party. If these people get elected, if they get into power, this is what they're going to push for, right? This is what they want. This is the modern-day Democrat Party. A bunch of freaks, weirdos, lunatics, low testosterone men, and high-calorie women. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
From, so we do that. It's 5 things. The Save America Act as one of our 5. That's voter ID. We want voter ID. We want proof of citizenship. We want no transgender mutilization.
Senator Mike Lee, Donald Trump, and Elon Musk are going all out in order to get the Save America Act finally passed. You have got to check out the latest on this.
Of your children. We don't want transgender mutilation. That's number 3. We want no men in women's sports. That's number 4. And we don't want to have mail-in voting. Where the votes go, where the hell do they come from? So we do that. It's 5 things. They're all 99%. They say, oh, that's an 80% issue, like voter ID. No, I think it's a 99. I think the Democrats have it at 87%. The leadership doesn't want it. Why don't you want voter ID? There's only one reason. Ready? Because you want to cheat.
Cat, good morning.
Okay? They blame it on all sorts of things. They said it's racist. They came up with things that you have to say their imagination is great. No, we're not going to let them cheat like they did in a certain election that we won't talk about. But that election was, and they cheat now. Look, we're not going to let it happen. So we're going to go get the Save America Act, not the Save Act. Nobody knew what the Save Act meant. The Save Act, what? Save what? Save America Act. And we're going to do everything we can. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe we're having a hard time. I think anybody that votes against it shouldn't be allowed to run for office. You want to know the truth?
You told your congressional colleagues that you will not sign any piece of legislation until the Save America Act is passed. Does that include the confirmation of Senator Mullen as your next DHS secretary? Does that mean a DHS funding bill? And Senator Thune said today it's not a matter of whether or not your Republican colleagues agree with the policy. It's about changing the process. In other words, getting rid of the filibuster to get there.
So in order to get it, you're going to need Democrat votes. And what we're saying is the Save America, not the Save Act, which nobody knew what it was, the Save America Act, the Save America Act. And that's voter ID. We want voter ID. We want to be able to see a picture of the voter. We want to be able to see that the voter is legitimate. We want, very importantly, confirmation that this voter is a citizen of the United States of America, and we want no mail-in ballot scams. So we have exceptions for the military, for sick, for disabled, and for people that are away, business trips or whatever. Even vacations will be very liberal in that. We've added 2 things to it: no men in women's sports and no transgender mutilization of our children. We don't want it's mutilization of our children, and we don't want that. So we added those 2 things. That's the 5.
Oh wow, good one, hero.
Good points. It polls at 86% with Democrats. Think of that. The overall vote is 86%. with Republicans, it's 98%. And the only one opposed to it is a Democrat leadership because they cheat. They want to cheat. So we added those 2 points. We're going for the gold, and we're going to have to fight like hell. Now, certain things will happen. Certain things will take place. I'm here to do a great job for the country. But we don't have a country if we're going to have elections that are so corrupt and so dishonest like we've witnessed over the last period of time. You know, as an example, virtually nobody has a system of mail-in ballots like we have. No other country in the world. France went away from it. They owe it. You know why? Because it's corrupt. And Jimmy Carter, when he had a commission, frankly, I think it's probably the best thing Jimmy Carter did. He said, you can't have mail-in voting because it's inherently dishonest. And it's turned out to be totally dishonest. So we're going to fight for it.
President Trump has said this is an absolute priority of his. You take my state of Minnesota, where we don't have voter ID, Maria, and one person can vouch for up to 8 people at a time to vote in a precinct on election day. It's outrageous. It's rife with problems when it comes to making sure that people who are supposed to vote are the actual people casting the vote. And when it comes to the House, yes, I'm going to be involved because I'm the whip and I got to count the votes. And I can tell you right now, we've got a small group of members who have made it very clear that they're not voting for anything until the Senate gets the Save America Act passed into law.
Voter ID and proof of citizenship and no mail-in ballots, corrupt mail-in ballots. We're the only country in the world that does it that way, corrupt as hell. And then we added 2 more. I think they're going to be adding a couple of more. One is no men and women sports. That seems like an easy one. I believe that's 99%. And no trans.
There was no way somebody that's passed away 10 years, 5 years, over a year ago are popping up in voters' elections. That makes no sense how somebody passed away able to vote. Makes no sense.
Gender mutilization of our children, none. That's only polling at 98%, Speaker. So hopefully the Senate's going to be able to get that. You can't ask for 5 better things. I think in terms of, it's not politics. It's really so good for our nation. I mean, who would not have voter ID? Who would not have proof of citizenship? And the only people who would want.
Okay, Scott. Okay, no problem with that.
Cheat. It's very, very simple. We can't let that happen.
The message that came over from the House includes a couple of key components, one of which is that you have to prove citizenship to be able to register to vote in this country. And the second component is that you actually have to show an ID to vote in this country. We think those are both things that are overwhelmingly popular all across this country, no matter what your political party is. And to sort of illustrate, I think, how this issue is something that a lot of people resonate with and connect to, is the fact that pretty much everything you do in your daily life involves showing an ID. Whether it's opening a bank account, getting a hotel room, picking up prescription drugs. You need a card in many cases just to get into a library. I mean, these are things that are just basic, fundamental aspects of our everyday life.
SNAP benefits.
To apply them to something as important as voting in this country. And if you think about it, even the Democrats who are complaining loudly about this require a photo ID to get into the Democrat National Convention. And there are a number of our colleagues, Democrat colleagues on the other side of the aisle, who require a photo ID just to attend their official events. So these are issues that are overwhelmingly popular with the American people, as is the issue of ensuring that biological males cannot compete in women's sports. We think that is also a no-brainer. It defies common sense not to agree with that, but that is an issue also that we intend to have a conversation about on the floor in the next few days, and we'll look forward to putting the Democrats on record and showing just the lack of common sense that they apply to some of these basic issues where the American people agree with us.
Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you guys for stopping in the chat. Thank you. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Appreciate it.
Important thing that Republicans and frankly Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature.
Democrats have completely lost their minds that they're on the wrong side of these issues. Even Democrat voters, Lawrence, support photo ID. They support only American citizens voting in American elections. This is what President Trump talked about, the return of common sense, and Republicans are going to push forward on it.
Yeah, there's also what other Republicans ran on as well, about accountability. And I think this is the part where voters get jaded on politicians because they campaign and make these tough statements, but they don't want to implement them.
And people do not support voter ID, Mr. President. Our Democrat colleagues are fond of bellowing into the TV cameras.
Hello.
That photo ID to vote is Jim Crow. They tell us with mock earnestness. Now, I will admit, our Democrat colleagues should be experts in Jim Crow because it was Democrat politicians who passed the Jim Crow laws. It was Democrat politicians who founded the Ku Klux Klan. It was Democrat politicians for decade after decade who enforced discrimination, separate but equal, poll taxes, and a host of other laws designed to prevent African Americans from voting. But do you know who has rejected their disingenuous claim that photo ID to vote is Jim Crow? The Supreme Court of the United States.
Damn.
Supreme Court of the United States, the state of Indiana, passed photo ID law requiring that you show a photo ID to vote. A group of left-wing plaintiffs filed litigation challenging that.
This is another area where we are watching the Democrats come full display of their loyalty to illegal aliens that are in this country. I mean, they are on it. Give them a choice between protecting the rule of law and protecting U.S. citizens. They're going to choose somebody illegally in the country every single time. That is really a disappointment to me, because the Save America Act is something that 83% of the voters in this country support. 83%. These are not my numbers. These are numbers from public polls. Anyone can go and look these up. Now, it is common sense that you are going to show a photo ID many times a day to prove that you are who you are. And it is common sense that everyone should show a photo ID when they go to the ballot box to cast that vote. Indeed, they should be a citizen and prove they're a citizen if they're going to register to vote, thereby protecting one person, one vote, protecting the integrity of our election system. This is a way that we help ensure that we preserve the system. You know,
have to leave. I could then come back because I got to speak for a couple of minutes before Thune lays down his motion to proceed. Okay. If MAGA Republicans want to bog down the Senate over a debate on voter suppression, Democrats are ready. We're ready to be here all day, all night, as long.
There's a video clip of him years ago wanting to have voters ID. What happened, Chuck? What happened? He was all for IDs. It's a shame. Term limits for these people. He should now retire in Congress. Term limits.
As long as it takes to ensure the powers of voter suppression do not win the day. Let me be very clear. The SAVE Act is not a voter ID bill. It is in every sense a voter suppression bill. It could purge millions of American citizens from the voter rolls through a screening algorithm designed by Elon Musk's Doge Squad. It could disenfranchise over 20 million Americans. It would kill online voter registration.
Yes, he is. The biggest turd in the punch bowl. Yes, he is.
I mean, it would kill vote by mail. It would kill motor voter registration.
Thomas, how do you know?
What does any of that have to do with election security? It doesn't. It's a naked attempt to
prayers for the victim.
The SAVE Act also rejects the most common forms of ID for anyone trying to register. Driver licenses, no longer enough. Not even military IDs would be enough. That is radical. It would force Americans to register only in person, something only 5% of Americans do. And as a result, you could show up at your voting place, the same place you voted 2 years ago, same ID, same everything, and they could say, sorry, you're no longer on the rolls. And then you couldn't vote. It's an outrageous proposition. It also punishes married women who change their last names. The SAVE Act is not about protecting the vote. It's about making it harder to vote and easier to steal an election. And we know what the deal is here. Donald Trump says if Republicans pass the SAVE Act, it guarantees the midterm. The senior senator from Utah says Republicans will lose power, likely for a long time, if they don't get the Save American Act passed. That's the whole game. It's cynical. It's beneath the Senate. It's beneath democracy. Senate Democrats will never let this rot.
Right, Black Hawk. Right.
And on the Save America Act, do you, support getting this legislation passed to protect elections?
Not as it is drafted, no.
Why not?
The implementation.
Hey, Black Hawk, I'm going to play my man, Chicago Conservative, and check him out after this video. His name is Fashawn.
Like Alaska is going to disenfranchise an extraordinary majority. And while I support citizenship voting and voting,
He be with that group called Chicago Flips Red.
Illegal immigrants flooded into our country while Joe Biden was president and the Democrats were in charge in the United States Senate and House. And now the Democrats want those same illegal immigrants to have an impact on the elections in the United States. I believe only citizens of the United States should be allowed to vote in American elections. And I believe you should have to present a photo identification card in order to vote. It's common sense.
Again, thank you guys. 1,500 subscribers. Wow. Thank you. Let's grow.
Things that are part of American life. Why not to vote? And the great number of American people agree completely with this, that you should have to have a photo ID and be a citizen in order to vote. The Save America Act is the best way to secure and safely provide elections that represent the viewpoints of the American people. And yet the Democrats, and each and every one of them is going to stand with the far left, the extreme members of their party who oppose voter identification with a photo ID. We're going to put every one of them on the record so that everyone in America knows that Republicans support voter ID and Democrats are the party of open borders and illegal voters.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 48. The motion is agreed to.
I don't understand how anybody can view this and think that this is a controversial opinion. 90% of Americans agree. Voter ID is essential before deciding who our next president of the United States is. If you need
Good morning,
ID
Monica.
alcohol, you need it to get a lottery ticket, you need it for damn near everything in this country except for electing the most powerful person on the freaking planet. It really
How is
makes
that?
no sense, and I
Makes
think
no
everybody
sense.
understands the only reason why the Democrats are fighting so hard against it is because in the 2024 election, you know the states that Donald Trump lost, every single one, had no voter ID requirements whatsoever. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to connect the dots and realize they're just trying to make sure that fraud will be prevalent in elections in the future. Because if we nip this in the bud,
Doing
make
good.
sure that only Americans are voting in our elections, we would have a whopping Republican victory in the 2026 midterms. And the sad fact of the matter is, everybody knows it, but nobody's saying it out loud. What's pissing me off, though, is that a lot of Republican senators are fighting back against it, saying, oh, we need 60 votes in the Senate, and we only have 53 Republican senators, so we need 7 Democrats to join, and no Democrats will join in this legislation. So if you ask me, the only remedy is to nuke the filibuster. This is a 90-10 issue. Americans are fed up, and we want this legislation passed. But the only real way that this is ever going to pass is if we nuke the filibuster and make sure we only need 50 votes for passage. I really don't understand why so many Republican senators are reluctant to do so when the Democrats will do this as soon as they have the majority in Congress. It's time the Republicans finally go on the offensive. Take Donald Trump's advice. Nuke the filibuster. That way we can pass some common sense laws so that we can protect this country not only for this year and next year, but for the future of America. The only thing that we personally can do right now is reach out to every Republican senator who is against the talking filibuster Save America Act. All their lines do not stop until this passes a law. Because if we learned anything from the 2020 election, is that if we don't have safe and secure elections, we have nothing. And we will lose this country right before our very eyes. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. Do you think that the Save America Act will pass as a law? And if so, when do you see that happening? Let me know. I'd love to know your
This is my man Fashawn, Chicago conservative. He be with their group called Chicago Flips Red. Once again, I'm a Chicago native, live in Rockford now. But here we go.
That energy transfer, the hydrogen moving down.
Black Hawk, this for you, Chicago Black Hawk, this for you, if you're still in the chat.
There are several things, but the important thing is NAD reduces as we age, and that exposes us to more oxidative stress.
How does the senescence work with that?
Senescent is resveratrol, which also is a weaker, but it's also is an important in this pathway, so it's important. All right, Gino Young is a conservative author. He's south side of Chicago, musician, educator, social commentator, author of Sex, Drugs, and Illiteracy, The Death of Education in America. And Vashon Tunkel is a Chicago YouTube conservative activist based in Chicago, appears in many different viral video moments. You can follow Gino on Instagram, official Gino Young, Geno, and X Gino for America. The Vashon is, on his X is TURNCHI Red, turnkey means CHI, turn chi Red, and also on YouTube at the Chicago Conservative. Gentlemen, thank you and welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us, Doctor. Thank you for having me.
Getting that right? Is it turn? Is that a play? Is that a play on chi? Turn chi?
No, it's pronounced shy. Like it's short for Chicago. That's what we call it in Chicago. But
Oh, I see. I thought you were making a play on turnkey, and we're going to get some turnkey going.
it sounds nice. It sounds nice.
So explain to me, I guess it was Vashan, where I in that viral video was all over X when you were quite reasonably addressing the city council, and I'm wondering what the response was to it all.
It was pretty much positive feedback. I have a couple people who didn't like what I had to say, but majority of them were fairly liberal, so who cares? But there was a lot of positive feedback in regards to what I said about Brandon Johnson, because his leadership is just absolutely terrible. When it comes to things that need to be prioritized in the city of Chicago, like crime, homelessness, when it comes to children's education, he every single time. And when people like me come out and speak out about it, he just basically ignores us. Even the aldermen there, the 50 aldermen, they ignore us. They basically just don't care, guys. So I tell people all the time to put the power into the people's hands, because we are the ones that vote for these people. And I tell them to stop voting blue, because in my opinion, me being alive my entire life, the Democratic Party has never prioritized the people, especially. And I'm not trying to play favoritism or anything here, but when it comes to people who live in impoverished neighborhoods and things like that, the Democrats tend to come to these people and they say, we're going to give you free this and free that, which in my opinion ultimately leads people in basically just in ultimate loop when it comes to being dependent on the government, which I do not want at all. And what started the whole city council thing was he was trying to raise property taxes by $300 million, which he promised that he wouldn't do. So we had a few people like me, Zoe Lee, Danielle Carter. I believe you guys have seen them. They're a part of Chicago Flips Red. And then that got shut down. And then after that, they tried to do it for another $150 million. And then that got shut down as well. And then they just kept going, and then they kept going. And then it eventually led to a $40 million credit line, which even I asked Brandon Johnson, how are we going to pay that money back? Because the key word is credit. So it's just a lot of stuff going on. And I don't want to, take up all of the time. But when it comes to the budget in Chicago, it's just absolutely disgraceful that on paper it says that, we're $1.2 billion in debt. But watchdogs have recently found out that Chicago is actually $41.1 billion in debt. So we would love to know where all of that money is going. I even addressed that to him at City Hall as well. And all he could talk about is Trump. Oh, Donald Trump is this and Donald Trump is that. And it's just absolutely disgraceful how all this guy, him and J.B. Pritzker, can do is talk about Donald Trump. Now, I get it. We're not getting federal funding, but Donald Trump is afraid that you're going to fund illegal migrants. In my opinion, that's the only reason why we're not getting federal funding. So it's just a lot. But yeah.
Yeah. And Gino, tell me how you and Vashan fit together, and give me your thoughts on why the mayor is doing such a, what is, does he just not understand basic accounting? I mean, what is the problem with the mayor?
Well, he's absolutely disgraceful is the issue. When I think about it, we all talked about and we sort of laughed at Lori Lightfoot because she was a joke. And we would all say that you can't get any worse than Lori Lightfoot. I remember back in the day, Tucker Carlson, when he was on Fox News, he used to always say that that was the worst mayor in America. And unfortunately, Brandon Johnson has taken that mantle and he's run with it. But when we look at these two individuals, they're really just people in suits, really. The Democratic establishment of the DNC, they select who they want to run Chicago, and they act in lockstep. So whether it's Brandon Johnson or whether it was Rahm Emanuel or whether it was Lori Lightfoot, we always end up with the worst possible representation. So, as Sean alluded to, it comes down to the people. The people need to be informed, and they need to understand that voting in lockstep with the Democratic Party since 1931 in Chicago, that's just how long they've been in charge, since 1931. Okay, my great-grandmother was 9, and she lived to be almost 100. So we need to understand that these people, they are not prioritizing our communities. They do not have our best interests at heart. and that they want to create a boogeyman out of President Trump, and they want to create a boogeyman out of ICE. But the issue is President Trump is not a problem in Chicago. President Trump or ICE, they're not the issue here. Republicans don't control anything in Illinois. The problem are these Democrat politicians who go into our towns every 2 and 4 years talking about change that never comes. And I actually ran for Congress back in 2022. I was the youngest federal candidate anywhere on the ballot nationwide, and I was the youngest candidate anywhere in Illinois. And when I ran for Congress, my mantra was, for 86 years, we've had Democratic representation right here in the 1st Congressional District. And what has it gotten you? And I always sort of tied that back to President Trump when he ran, and he said to the Black community specifically, what do you have to lose? You go to the worst schools, and you have the worst education, you have the worst roads, you have the worst neighborhoods. And a lot of people were put off by that statement, but when you think about it, all that the Democratic Party breeds is destruction. And I saw that firsthand when I went into the public school system, and that's what led me to write my book. I saw it firsthand. All that they breed is destruction.
Democratic had control since the 1920s. Wow.
And you have a CTU president, Stacey Davis Gates, running around quoting radical socialist James Baldwin, saying that the children of Chicago are all of our children. All the children belong to the CTU, yet her own children don't even go to Chicago public schools. Now, how is it that you are the head of Chicago Public Schools or Chicago Teachers Union, and you won't even send your own darn children to the schools that you run? Now, what type of clown is that? But that's the type of leadership, so-called, you want to call it that we have here in Chicago. It's disgraceful, and it's why we are one of the most moved out of states nationwide.
Sounds like you're following the California plan. I mean, we have a governor that has similar sort of relationship with schools, closes them down, and sends his kids to private schools so they can continue their education.
That's what they do in Chicago.
It's really wild. And I want to ask, I'll start with Gino first.
I used to work at Austin High School, Chicago Blackhawks. I used to work at Austin High School, right there on Pine in Washington.
It seemed like Chicago was really coming on.
I was head of security
in the early 2000s. And I didn't realize it's been democratically run ever, the whole way. But somebody must have been doing something right. I mean, what I'm trying to get my head around, it may not be a Democrat-Republic thing. It may be more something else, some ideology, some capture that's happened in your city, because it was coming on, and then ba-boom, and fell out.
Absolutely, Doctor. So one of the things, and I get into this early on in my book, it's about the demographics of Chicago. When you look at the late 90s, you had a police force that was being supported by the mayor that we had at that time. My father actually worked as a Chicago Police Department officer, and before that he was in CHA, which was the Chicago Housing Authority, which handled the really infamous projects, which were Cabrini Green, Robert Taylor Homes, Allgill Gardens. So he really was on the front lines. He always tells the story about how his first night on the job, they sent him out there with a pistol and a couple of clips and said, "Y'all be safe." That was their exact words, "Y'all be safe," and put them up under the bridge right there at Robert Taylor Homes, which was one of the most infamous housing projects anywhere in the country, frankly. So when you look at it, you had a concentration of crime, but it was in those specific areas, whether it was the projects or certain neighborhoods. But as soon as they disbanded those projects, they ended up displacing all those people and shipping them all across the south suburbs of Chicago and all across the city. So we began to see a demographic shift. Even in my neighborhood, which is actually still a pretty nice neighborhood to live in, you're starting to see different elements creep in that weren't here prior. And the school systems have bear the brunt of that in the greatest regard, because I can tell you the children that I was dealing with out in the south suburbs of Chicago, they were like straight up project kids. They were like anything that you would have seen, in the projects in the 1990s, because their parents were those people. So that's why I was receiving death threats. I received a death threat when I worked at Hillcrest High School in Country Club Hills, Illinois. And that's why I no longer work there, because after I received the death threat from the girl, which I took seriously, by the way, because 2 people have been murdered there in the last couple of years on the school grounds. One was the parent. I took that death threat very seriously, and they ended up getting upset with me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Because the girl that did it wanted to say that I said something to her and that was inappropriate, like I cursed her out or something. So instead of them dealing with the child that was out of control, they just decided to tell me, well, you know, you don't have to come back here anymore and we don't need you. But I said all that to say the demographic change in Chicago that you see really is based on the fact that we have taken crime that was once concentrated in one area and just sort of broadened it out across the entire Chicagoland area.
Sean, your thoughts?
I would have to agree with Gino, but I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I believe Dr. Drew brought this up earlier about the progressive ideologies. Me personally, I think it started under the Obama administration when he got elected, because I believe he brought back race into the equation, bringing back racism, bringing back victimhood when it comes to the neighborhoods, especially the ones in the Black community. And when we brought that back, I mean, now you have J.B. Pritzker making things like the Safety Act, which isn't safe at all. There's nothing safe about the Safety Act because it basically allows criminals to be allowed back on the street, if you guys want to look into that. But it's absolutely disgraceful how this act is still existing at this point. And it actually just is just one of many things that just caused the absolute downfall of not just Chicago, but all of our beautiful cities like New York, like Los Angeles, like Detroit, and so forth. It's because of the progressive ideologies. It's because, in my opinion, I just believe Barack Obama just brought back something that just really didn't exist. I mean, I'm not going to say that racism never existed in America, but how can you say that America is racist when they voted for you twice? You being a black man in America, you know, you should.
He's half black. His mama was white. He's mixed.
When we bring race into the equation, it just brings division. And this is this ultimately the problem with Brandon Johnson as well, because he's just a very, very racist man. I caught this out at City Hall as well. He basically just thinks that prioritizing Black Americans in Chicago, like on the west side and the south side, he believes that these are the only people that exist in Chicago, and they're not. You know, you have white Americans, you have Italian Americans, you have Polish Americans, like you name it, like all of
that's his last name, Deshaun Toko.
It's just absolutely ruined Chicago now. Like the CTA is terrible. Over 80% of people are afraid of taking the CTAs.
This is his show.
Taxes are up about 13%, and I believe we discussed this earlier about him not raising property taxes and promising that he wouldn't, and then that he would actually shut down businesses in Chicago. I believe there was one business on the Riverwalk that was bringing in millions of dollars in revenue, by the way, a year. So I don't know why he would do that, but he shut the place down and replaced it with a Black-owned business that eventually just got closed down eventually. So he just basically prioritizes Black America in Chicago. It's honestly just not fair. It's not fair at all. And he don't hold the parents accountable when it comes to things like teen takeover. These young kids, they don't all, I mean, yes, they do, want to have fun and things like that, but all of them aren't just trying to have fun. Some of them want to cause havoc out there in Chicago. They're, breaking in business like Rolex and Louis Vuitton. And this is ultimately why McDonald's left. It's because the homelessness and the crime in Chicago is just too much. And me personally, I believe
Good morning, George.
Alderman Ray Lopez, he brought this up in one of the committee meetings, is that we should hold the parents accountable when it comes to their children doing heinous acts outside of their time limit, or, when it comes to the curfew. I think this ultimately needs to happen. But when we bring these ideas to Brandon Johnson, he just basically shoved them away. And I would actually encourage Chicago to vote red, because today is actually election.
Don't be misled.
Voting day for the primaries in Chicago. So I would actually encourage people to vote red down the ballot, because we definitely need conservative Republican values in Chicago. Like Gino said, it hasn't been a Republican mayor since 1927 through 1931, I believe.
Right.
So that's nearly a century. So there's nothing wrong with voting differently. We don't have to abide by the Democratic machine for almost 100 years in Chicago. And we just need...
Hey, Thomas, my hat means everything to me. My hat ain't silly. I'm glad you're in the chat. Appreciate you. I like my hats.
Things to be fixed, like homelessness is rapid. Almost 8,000 people are reportedly homeless in 2025, and that's just in 2025, and that's not even including illegal migrants that Brandon Johnson just loved to
We can
fund,
only
by
have
the
just
way.
10,000. We can only have just 10,000 in California and Los Angeles. We're in the 100,000 range. But gentlemen, I've got to.
I don't care if Trump don't care about me. I don't care about Trump don't care about me or don't know me. I like his policies. That's it. If I meet him, I'd be great. I'd be happy. Man, thumbs up. But other than that, it's okay, man. Like I said, I like Trump. You don't gotta like him. Let's continue.
My father was from Chicago. My grandparents live in Chicago after immigrating from Eastern Europe. It's a great city with a marvelous history, and it's worth fighting for. So I wish you the best. I hope we'll check in with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, Doctor.
Thank you, gentlemen. All those guys on X, and you won't be disappointed.
And on YouTube, it's my man Vashawn. Check him out.
Sent our budgets to you.
Have me talking. I don't know. Let's see how that works out. In any event, Kash Patel, John Ratcliffe, Tulsi Gabbard, and then, of course, up on the dais is all of the different senators that are going to be questioning those three. Actually, four. There's a general there as well. Actually, five. There's another guy there. Two generals. But anyway, we're going to get to that right now. Now, I want to let you know, there was a lot of back and forth in terms of when's this hearing going to start? What day is it? There's a 2-day hearing. So yesterday was supposed to be the House hearing. They pushed that back till tomorrow. So there's going to be a hearing right now that's going on. And then after that, we're going to go to tomorrow. We're going to go to the House hearing if you want me to do that. But without further ado, I can show you through the magic of technology that, we're right here. You're not missing anything.
Dress. Thank you.
Right
Appreciate
so
that.
Get ready to
the acting director of the National Security Agency and command.
I got to move it back to the beginning. Hold on. So you don't get interrupted with a lot of sound. There was like 30 minutes of nothing before this thing even began. Hold on.
Thank you.
To the point. Here we go. All right. So this is when it's
the acting director of the National Security Agency and commander of U.S. Cyber Command, Lieutenant General William Hartman, and the DIE director, Lieutenant General James Adams. Thank you all for your appearance today and for your service. I also want to offer a special thanks to General Hartman, who is about to enter a well-earned and well-deserved retirement. General, on behalf of the committee, thank you for your lifetime of service to our nation. I'd first like to take this opportunity to commend the thousands of men and women in our intelligence agencies whom our witnesses represent. Our intelligence professionals are second to none. Because of their service, their dedication, and their sacrifice, Americans are safer at home and around the world. But because of the nature of their work, grateful Americans don't buy their lunch at restaurants or even have a chance to say thank you. So on their behalf, let me simply say thank you. I want to make two basic points this morning. First, the world is always a dangerous place, especially for America. But thanks to your agencies, President Trump's leadership, the world isn't quite as dangerous for Americans as it was a year ago. Thanks to the efforts of our military and intelligence personnel, including my fellow Arkansans who are now serving in the Middle East, the Iranian revolutionary regime that terrorized
tech support. Good morning.
47 years is finally knocked on its back foot. Last summer, we devastated Iran's.
Good morning, Charles.
In recent weeks, we've eliminated Iran's top leadership, pummeled its military, sunk its navy, destroyed its missiles, neutered its proxies, and left its economy reeling. After 47 years of indecision and timidity, America has finally put our foot down. I'm also pleased to report that things have improved a lot in our own backyard now that Venezuela's illegitimate communist dictator, Nicolas Maduro, is rotting in a New York prison. Only the United States could execute a military and intelligence operation of this difficulty without a single American life lost. Our military is awesome, but these operations wouldn't have succeeded, and they probably wouldn't have even been tried without timely, accurate, and fact-based intelligence from your agencies. These successful operations are a testament to our intelligence professionals' ability to expose and uncover critical details about America's enemies.
So let this be a warning to those who wish America harm. We leave no stone unturned, and there's no one or no thing close to you that might not betray you. Today's hearing is an opportunity for the American people to hear an unvarnished and unbiased account of the remaining threats we face, from communist China, North Korea, and Russia to the east to narco-terrorist cartels here at home. These threats truly do span the globe. And for my second point, your agencies have improved over the last year thanks to reforms that has gotten them back to basics. Of course, my 2 points are related. When our intelligence agencies return to their core mission, stealing the secrets of our adversaries to deliver timely and needful intelligence, America is safer for it. These efforts are already bearing fruit. For example, last year, the CIA increased its foreign intelligence reporting by 25%. This year, the CIA is on track to hire and deploy more officers than at any point in the last quarter century. While I'm greatly encouraged by the progress, more remains to be done. We must always equip our intelligence personnel with the tools they need to do their jobs well and execute their missions. That's why I fully support President Trump's request for a clean reauthorization of FISA Section 702. And it's why I expect a healthy intelligence budget request in the administration's supplemental appropriations request to fund operations against Iran and narco-terrorists. No doubt our military needs supplemental funding, but our intelligence agencies need it just as badly. Moreover, I urge each of you to continue to make personnel and institutional reforms that will cement these changes and foreclose a return in the future to bureaucratic bloat, political bias, and excessive caution within your services. When I became chairman, I promised real reform across the entire intelligence community. Our first Intelligence Authorization Act set the foundation for a more efficient intelligence community by, for example, reorganizing the ODNI, improving the security of CIA installations, and directing resources towards foreign intelligence collection and covert action. This year, I look forward to going further, namely by growing our cadre of collectors, making generational investments in core capabilities, providing new capabilities to defend our space assets, and further codifying reforms to guard against any future return of bloated and biased bureaucracy. I look forward to working with you towards these ends. I now recognize the Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me also offer a good morning to our witnesses. Let me also join you, Mr. Chairman, and begin by thanking literally the tens of thousands of men and women across America's intelligence community who work every day to keep our country safe. Their work is by necessity secret. That is the nature of intelligence. But that is also why hearings like this one matter so much. Over the past year, we have seen a series of developments that raise serious concerns about the erosion of safeguards that protect both our democracy and our security. And nowhere is that more worrying than when it comes to the integrity of our elections. For decades now, our intelligence community has warned that foreign adversaries, including Russia, China, and Iran, are actively seeking to shape the outcome
Sharp as
of
a
American
tack.
elections. These efforts have included cyber intrusions, disinformation campaigns, and covert influence operations designed to divide Americans and undermine our confidence in our democratic institutions. Protecting our elections from these threats should be one of the intelligence community's highest priorities. The DNI is supposed to be coordinating intelligence on foreign election interference, warning the American people about adversaries seeking to undermine our democracy, ensuring that federal, state, and local officials have the information they need. Congress even required the creation of a foreign malign influence center inside the office of the DNI to coordinate the intelligence community's response to foreign election interference and ensure that these threats are properly shared across the government. That is the mission Congress assigned to the DNI. But while foreign adversaries are actively probing our democratic institutions, the DNI has eliminated the Foreign Malign Influence Center and does not have a designated official coordinating the response to election threats. And for months, the committee has repeatedly requested briefings from the IC, briefings that are required by law on legitimate foreign threats to the midterms. We have received no response. Now, that silence, I believe, should concern every member of the committee, because it clearly demonstrates the DNI is not interested in protecting American democracy by combating foreign influence. Instead, unfortunately, we've seen the DNI involve herself in purely domestic matters. Last month, we saw Director Gabbard personally participate in a law enforcement raid to seize election ballots and voting machine records in Fulton County, Georgia. A raid tied to an election that the president lost 6 years ago. When the warrant supporting the raid was unsealed, it showed something deeply troubling. There was no foreign connection to justify the involvement of our nation's top spy. Instead, the predicate for the warrant was a slop of debunked conspiracy theories that had already been rejected repeatedly by courts, by independent investigators, and even by Georgia's own Republican Secretary of State. Yet the nation's top intelligence official was personally...
Okay, so what you're hearing right now is panic. They know she went into Fulton County. They don't want her looking at Fulton County. They don't want anybody looking at the 2020 election. They understand how big of a problem this is. And you would think you're sitting here talking to the intelligence community that you would, maybe be talking about Iran. That is very telling that right off the bat, he didn't even talk about Iran.
To misuse her national security powers to interfere in domestic politics and potentially provide a pretext for the president's unconstitutional efforts to seize control of the upcoming elections. Don't take my word for it. The president has repeatedly pushed for the nationalization of our elections, calling for federal government to override the state election laws and, quote, take over voting while continuing to make false statements about election fraud. And we have heard troubling rhetoric from senior officials that reinforce these concerns. As former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said publicly, we've been, and this is a quote, we've been proactive trying to make sure we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country. At the same time, the administration has brought into government individuals promoting conspiracy theories about our elections. The so-called White House Director of Election Security and Integrity, Kurt Olson, played a key role in efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Now, Mr. Olson holds a position inside the federal government with the authority to refer criminal investigations and access our most sensitive security information, all supposedly doing his witch hunts around elections. Matter of fact, according to the court filings, he helped trigger the FBI seizure of the ballots in Fulton County. So it's worth asking, why is someone whose career has been devoted to undermining the legitimate results of a democratic election now operating from inside the federal government with access to law enforcement?
The fact, number one, he's reading this. As I've shown you guys before, they read this into the record. He probably had nothing to do with the composition. He's just reading it at the hearing, putting it in the record. And it's very telling that this is the most important issue to the Democrats. Not Iran, not the Save America Act. This is what's most important. They can't understand why was involved with Fulton County. And again, this goes to yesterday with everybody talking about Joe Kent and leaks. They don't know. They have no idea what's going on. They're playing this so privately. It's incredible.
Present threats to American security requires experienced professionals in intelligence agencies that are focused squarely on their mission. Instead, over the past year, we've seen actions that only serve to weaken them. Politically motivated purges at the FBI have resulted in the exodus of hundreds of agents and the reassignments of hundreds more from key national security areas like counterintelligence, counterterrorism, and cyber, and where they've been redeployed to? Immigration enforcement. In one troubling case, agents working on a task force focused on threats from Iran, clearly something that's pretty damn important right now, were dismissed because they had previously participated in the investigation of the president's mishandling of classified information. Elsewhere, the Bureau's budget is being slashed. Last year, it cut over $500 million, with the largest decreases from cyber, counterterrorism, and counterespionage. And the remaining scarce resources are being squandered on things like a $60 million jet for the director's personal travel so he can go golfing in Scotland, partying with athletes in Milan. In fact, according to a whistleblower account, those flights became so frequent they even delayed the Bureau's response to major incidents like the Charlie Kirk assassination or shooting at Brown University. Credible reports also indicate that highly trained FBI agents from elite SWAT units have been reassigned to chauffeur his girlfriend, an unprecedented use of personnel whose training are actually intended for hunting violent criminals and neutralizing terrorists. Unfortunately, this dysfunction has not been limited to the FBI. Both the National Security Agency and the Defense Intelligence Agency, and this is no reflection on the two gentlemen sitting in front of us, were both left leaderless for months after the president fired their directors. One at the behest of a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, and the other for providing a fact-based assessment that contradicted the president's claims about obliterating Iran's nuclear program. Clearly, if the program had been truly obliterated, the president wouldn't be bombing again right now. And again, more than 1/3 of the personnel at CISA, created by Congress to protect critical infrastructure like power, water, and election systems, have been forced out. That seems like a real mistake as we still grapple with the intrusion called Typhoon and the recent Iranian cyber attack on Stryker. And we are now seeing in real time the cost to the State Department. Thousands of American citizens were trapped in a literal war zone with little assistance from their own government. For a time, those calling the State Department hotline for assistance were greeted with a pre-recorded message that said, quote, "Please do not rely on the U.S. government for assisted departure or evacuation." This was a foreseeable security crisis. When you start a war of choice, when there was no imminent threat, you should be able to prepare to make sure you get Americans out of the war zone. That same attitude, pushing some of our closest friends into the arms of our most capable foes, has profound consequences. Two of our most significant allies, Canada and the UK, are currently working to sign trade deals with China because they no longer believe the United States is a dependable partner. That's a remarkable statement in 2026. And in the president's war of choice with Iran, a war that has already killed 13 service members, cost Americans, taxpayers, billions of dollars, and scrambled supply chains from oil to fertilizer to aluminum, nobody answered the call when the president asked our allies to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. As the president's own counterterrorism chief acknowledged in his resignation yesterday, Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. Unfortunately, our
if you haven't subscribed, subscribe if you haven't.
And distracted by the administration's unilateral threats like invading Greenland. And the result is clear. Americans have been left more exposed in an already dangerous conflict. Now, what I just outlined is quite a list. And it's a partial one at that. Matter of fact, we've got a full list we'd like to share with all the press. So what does this all mean? It matters because I believe the warnings contained in this year's annual threat assessment. I believe our IC when they say the global security environment is becoming more complex and that armed conflict is becoming more global. And I also agree with the assessment when it says that to succeed, we must think prudently and prioritize our efforts. On the topic of the annual threat assessment, I want to close where I began by noting that since the first time since 2017, in the aftermath of Russia's intervention in our 2016 elections, the annual threat assessment includes nothing about adversary attempts to influence American elections. Now, I don't believe this omission means that the threat has disappeared. It means that the intelligence community is no longer being allowed to speak honestly about it. And it raises serious questions. And I will be asking about your priorities, Director Gabbard, in terms of what you're choosing to prioritize instead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Before we go to the witnesses, now that we have a critical mass of members, I would simply like to remind members that we will handle questions as we did last year of seniority at the time of the gavel, and alternating between Democrats and Republicans. We'll have one round of questions, 7 minutes per round. I will not entertain questions after 7-minute time has expired. Furthermore, I expect to convene the closed session in our usual location promptly 30 minutes after the open session begins. Director Gabbard, the floor is yours.
Chairman Cotton, Vice Chair Warner, members of the committee, good morning. I'm here today to present the 2026 Annual Threat Assessment, joined by the directors of the CIA, FBI, DIA, and NSA. Before I continue, on behalf of the intelligence community, I want to extend our thanks to General Hartman for his 37 years of service in uniform and closing out his 37 years with tremendous leadership of the NSA. This briefing is being provided in accordance with ODNI's statutory responsibility. I'd like to remind those who are watching what I am briefing here today conveys the intelligence community's assessment of the threats facing U.S. citizens, our homeland, and our interests, not my personal views or opinions. In this assessment, we're following the structure of priorities that were laid out in the President's national security strategy, starting with threats to our homeland and then shifting to global risks. The defense of our homeland is of the utmost importance to the American people, and efforts by this administration have shown over the last year the results of bolstering homeland defense in the security of the American people. For example, the strict enforcement of U.S. policies at the U.S.-Mexico border and regionally have served as a deterrent, drastically reducing illegal immigration. Based on Customs and Border Patrol data, January 2026's monthly encounters are down 83.8% compared to January 2025. Encounters declined 79% compared to 2024. The drivers of migration are likely to continue. Potential worsening instability in countries like Cuba and Haiti risk triggering migration surges, and smugglers who have long operated as transnational criminal organizations continue to view chaos as an opportunity for profit and will continue to look to profit from illegal immigration flows. These transnational criminal organizations continue to pose a daily and direct threat to the health and safety of millions of U.S. citizens, primarily and directly by producing and trafficking in illegal drugs. Under President Trump's leadership, fentanyl overdose deaths have seen a 30% decrease from September 2024 to September 2025. President Trump's aggressive efforts to more directly and actively target these transnational criminal organizations and reduce the inflow of fentanyl precursors has already had a significant impact, which is likely to continue. We've seen fentanyl potency also decrease, likely due to disruptions to the production supply chain. U.S. efforts to work with China and India to halt the flow of fentanyl precursor chemicals to North America are demonstrating some improvement, but there is more work to be done, as sadly, there are still tens of thousands of fentanyl-related deaths in America every year. Mexico-based TCOs like the Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco New Generation cartel dominate the production and smuggling of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and cocaine into the United States. Colombia-based DCOs and illegal armed groups like the Revolutionary
This is my
Armed
other
Forces
channel I
of
was
Colombia
doing.
and
It's
the
my other
National
channel.
Liberation Army are responsible for producing and trafficking large volumes of cocaine to the U.S. and European markets, with now some indicators of attempts to expand their market to the Asia-Pacific region.
Bud Russell, good morning. Good morning.
world's
Sorry to
largest
hear that,
producer of
man.
cocaine,
Damn.
And Colombian criminal groups have
I
expanded
lost a
their
neighbor out
trafficking
here in
relationship.
Rockford and off the fentanyl. He had the highest level of fentanyl in the system out here in Rockford. Good neighbor. What up, what up?
Ecuadorian and Brazilian gangs. As you know, MS-13 is well established in cells within the United States and uses violence to
What's up?
intimidate the Salvadoran diaspora, engaging in murder, extortion, retail drug trafficking, firearms offenses, and prostitution, fueling increased violence and instability. These and other TCOs continue to present a very tangible and individualized risk of violent crime to everyday Americans and contribute to regional instability. As the president increases his focus on counter-drug and counter-cartel pressures, they are likely to seek ways to try to adapt their operations, including shifting production locations, trafficking routes, and methods. The United States continues to face a complex and evolving threat landscape with a geographically diverse set of Islamist terrorist actors seeking to propagate their ideology globally and harm Americans.
Yes.
Even as Al-Qaeda and ISIS remain weaker today than they were at their respective peaks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The spread of Islamist ideology, in some cases led by individuals and organizations associated with the Muslim Brotherhood, poses a fundamental threat to freedom and the foundational principles that underpin Western civilization. Islamist groups and individuals use this ideology for recruiting and financial support for terrorist groups and individuals around the world, and to advance their political objectives of establishing an Islamist caliphate which governs based on Sharia. There are increasing examples of this in various European countries. And President Trump's designation of certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations is a mechanism to secure Americans against this threat. In response to setbacks to their capabilities of conducting large-scale complex attacks, Islamist terrorist groups have shifted toward focusing on executing information operations to spread propaganda and inspire or enable individuals located in or with access to the West. U.S. counterterrorism efforts, primarily in Iraq, Somalia, Yemen, and Syria in 2025, were instrumental in removing key terrorist leaders and operatives, degrading the ability of Al-Qaeda and ISIS to quickly reconstitute its leadership and plan large-scale attacks against the homeland and U.S. interests abroad. Strict U.S. border enforcement measures and increased deportations of individuals with suspected links to Islamist terrorists have reduced access to the homeland and removed some potential sources of future terrorist attacks. Since January, U.S. officials have only had a handful of encounters at our borders with individuals associated with terrorist groups. This is a positive trend. However, our interagency coordinated efforts to continue to identify, locate, and remove known or suspected terrorists who may already be in the United States continues with vigilance. In 2025, there were at least 3 Islamist terrorist attacks in the United States. Law enforcement disrupted at least 15 U.S.-based Islamist terrorist plotters. Roughly half of last year's disrupted plotters had some online contact with Islamist terrorists inspired by Islamist foreign terrorist organizations abroad. For example, in the recent attempt to attack a synagogue in Michigan, the shooter had familial ties to a Hezbollah leader. Al-Qaeda and ISIS pose the biggest threat to U.S. interests overseas in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia, where these groups operate. In the Middle East, AQAP in Yemen, ISIS-K in South Asia, and ISIS in Syria are among the most likely groups conducting external plotting. ISIS in Syria is likely seeking to rebuild its ranks, expand support networks, and solicit funds by re-engaging with and recruiting from the likely hundreds of ISIS detainees and thousands of ISIS-linked women and children who were either released or escaped from prisons and displaced person camps that were previously run by the Syrian Democratic Forces in northeast Syria. Meanwhile, state actors present a risk broader in scope by seeking new capabilities in kinetic and cyber warfare. The United States' secure nuclear deterrent continues to ensure safety in the homeland against strategic threats. However, the intelligence community assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range. The IC assesses that threats to the homeland will expand collectively to more than 16,000 missiles by 2035, from the current assessed figure of more than 3,000 missiles. The IC assesses that China and Russia are developing advanced delivery systems meant to be capable of penetrating or bypassing U.S. missile defenses. North Korea's ICBMs can already reach U.S. soil, and the IC assesses that it is committed to expanding its nuclear arsenal. Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile development potentially could include ICBMs with a range capable of striking the homeland. The IC assesses that Iran has previously demonstrated space launch and other technology it could use to begin to develop a militarily viable ICBM before 2035, should Tehran attempt to pursue that capability. However, these assessments will clearly be updated as the full impact of Operation Epic Fury's devastating strikes on Iran's missile production facilities, stockpiles, and launch capabilities is determined. These nations collectively will likely seek to understand U.S. plans for advanced missile defense for the homeland, probably for the purpose of shaping their own missile development programs and assessing U.S. intentions regarding deterrence. Shifting to the cyber domain, the IC assesses that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and non-state ransomware groups will continue to seek to compromise U.S. government and private sector networks, as well as critical infrastructure, to collect intelligence, create options for future disruption, and for financial gain. The IC assesses that China and Russia present the most persistent and active threats and are continuing their R&D efforts. North Korea's cyber program is sophisticated and agile. In 2025 alone, North Korea's cryptocurrency heist probably stole $2 billion, which the IC assesses is helping to fund the regime and include further development of its strategic weapons programs. Financially or ideologically motivated non-state actors are becoming more bold, with ransomware groups shifting to faster, high-volume attacks that are harder to identify and mitigate. Innovation in the field of artificial intelligence will likely accelerate these threats in the cyber domain. The IC assesses that it will increasingly shape cyber operations, with both cyber operators and defenders using these tools to improve their speed and effectiveness. For example, in August of 2025, cyber actors used an AI tool to conduct a data extortion operation against international government, healthcare, and public health emergency service sectors, as well as religious institutions. Moving to the Arctic, the IC assesses that Russia, and to a lesser extent China, aim to strengthen their presence in the region through increased maritime trade, natural resource extraction, and military activity. Russia, which has the longest coastline in the Arctic, has long sought recognition of its polar great power status and is deploying more military forces and building new permanent infrastructure. China, though not an Arctic country, is engaged in more limited efforts in the region to advance its own strategic and economic interests. The IC assesses that China is the most capable competitor in the field of artificial intelligence. The IC assesses that AI capabilities are rapidly advancing and changing the threat landscape. As this is a defining technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning comprehension, problem solving, creativity, and autonomy, it will be critical to ensure that humans remain in control of how AI is used and of the machines that may threaten to autonomously violate the interests of the American people across all domains. AI adoption at scale across the spectrum of usage poses serious risks. AI has the potential to aid in weapons and systems design and has been used in recent conflicts to influence targeting and streamline decision-making, underscoring the risk and likely threats that could manifest on the battlefield. Early developers in quantum computers will give countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others to quickly process national security information and break current encryption methodology used to protect sensitive finance, healthcare, and government information. The global security landscape is volatile and complex, with armed conflict growing more common and posing potential threats against U.S. interests. Strategic competition and regional and smaller powers are becoming more willing to use force to pursue their interests, heightening the risk of conflict. The IC assesses the space domain is becoming increasingly contested, with China and Russia developing counter-space capabilities to challenge U.S. space efforts. The threat of nuclear proliferation and advancing chemical and biological warfare capabilities
for subscribing. Thank you for subscribing.
I'll turn now to our neighborhood in the Western Hemisphere, where flagging economies, high crime rates, pervasive organized crime, migration flows, corruption, narcotics trafficking, all of these present a spectrum of risks to U.S. interests, and where strategic competitors seek to gain greater influence in the region. The IC assesses that Latin America and the Caribbean almost certainly will see hotspots of volatility in the coming year. Since Maduro's arrest, the IC assesses a shift in Venezuela's leadership towards cooperating with the U.S. to open its economy, to develop the country's oil and gas extraction capability, and we've seen their movement in releasing political prisoners. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement review in 2026 will likely increase uncertainty in many Latin American countries, especially those that rely on Mexico as an export destination for intermediate goods for manufacture and onward export to the U.S. China, Russia, and Iran are likely seeking to sustain economic, political, and military engagement with Latin America. The IC assesses that China's demand for raw materials is likely to continue to drive its economic outreach, while Russia likely wants to expand its current security and diplomatic ties with Cuba and Nicaragua. The IC assesses that China aims to elevate its own political, economic, military, and technological power to increase its own regional positioning, global influence, to fend off threats to their interests. While there are challenging areas where interests diverge, President Trump's diplomatic engagements with President Xi to work towards U.S. interests have enabled progress where those interests align. The IC assesses that China continues to rapidly modernize its military forces across all domains in pursuit of its goal to achieve world-class status by mid-century. This includes building a force with the aim of being capable of deterring U.S. and allied forces in the region, and to achieve their stated objective of developing the ability to seize Taiwan by force if necessary. However, the IC assesses that China likely prefers to set the conditions for an eventual peaceful reunification with Taiwan short of conflict. The IC assesses that an increasingly confident North Korean regime remains a source of concern regionally and globally. Its weapons of mass destruction, its conventional military capabilities, illicit cyber activities, and demonstrated willingness to use asymmetric capabilities poses a threat to U.S. and its allies, particularly South Korea and Japan. North Korea's partnership with Russia is growing, and in 2025, Kim took steps to improve ties with China, still North Korea's most important trading partner and economic benefactor. The IC assesses that North Korea's support for Russia in the war against Ukraine has increased North Korea's capabilities as their forces have gained combat experience in 21st century warfare, along with equipment. In 2024, North Korea deployed more than 11,000 troops to Russia to support combat operations in Kursk. Pyongyang continues to develop and expand its strategic weapons programs, including missiles that can evade U.S. and regional missile defenses. It is continuing to work to increase its nuclear warhead stockpile and maintains biological and chemical weapons capabilities. Russia retains the capability to selectively challenge U.S. interests globally by military and non-military means. The IC assesses that the most dangerous threat posed by Russia to the U.S. is the potential of an escalatory spiral in an ongoing conflict such as Ukraine, or a new conflict that led to direct hostilities, including the potential deployment of nuclear weapons. The IC assesses that Putin continues to invest in Russia's defense industrial base, as well as novel capabilities that may pose a greater threat to the U.S. homeland and forces abroad than conventional weapons. Russia has advanced systems, hypersonic missiles, and undersea capabilities designed to negate U.S. military advantage. Moscow also relies on other tools to exert pressure, using gray zone tactics to further its goals and compete below the level of armed conflict. Russia is also building
They got the pill. Yeah, they got that. It was like $22, $30 or something like that from the pills.
Its development of a nuclear counter-space weapon poses the greatest single threat to the world's space architecture. During the past year, the IC assesses that Russia has maintained the upper hand in the war against Ukraine. U.S.-led negotiations between Moscow and Kiev are ongoing. Until such an agreement is met, Moscow is likely to continue fighting a slow war of attrition until they view their objectives have been achieved. In the Middle East, conflict and instability will shape security, political, and economic dynamics in a variety of ways. The IC assesses that Operation Epic Fury is advancing fundamental change in the region that began with Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, and continued with the 12-day war last year, resulting in weakening Iran and its proxies. The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded. The US-led maximum pressure campaign and snapback of European sanctions added additional pressure to an already bleak Iranian economy, resulting in mass protests earlier this year that Tehran suppressed by killing thousands of protesters. Even if the regime remains intact, the IC assesses that internal tensions are likely to increase as Iran's economy worsens. Even so, Iran and its proxies continue to attack U.S. and allied interests in the Middle East. The IC assesses that if a hostile regime survives, it will likely seek to begin a years-long effort to rebuild its military, missiles, and UAV forces. Prior to Operation Epic Fury, the IC assesses Iran was trying to recover from the severe damage to its nuclear infrastructure sustained during the 12-day war and continued to refuse to comply with its nuclear obligations with the IAEA, refusing them access to key facilities. The IC assesses that China, Russia, and North Korea see the United States as a strategic competitor and potential adversary. Iran has long viewed the U.S. as an adversary and is engaged in active conflict with the U.S. as of today. These four countries, the IC assesses, are likely to continue their selective cooperation with each other, which could bolster their individual capabilities and threats to U.S. interests more broadly. However, currently these relationships are primarily bilateral on selective issues and depend on broader circumstances, divergent sovereign interests, and in some cases, concerns over directly confronting the United States. These factors, the IC assesses, are likely to constrain their relationships. Finally, conflicts on the continent of Africa are likely to persist through 2026 due to poor governance, economic demands, and external support. Tensions continue between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which could rapidly accelerate to conflict. Contentious national elections in Somalia could distract the federal government away from counterterrorism actions against al-Shabaab, which continues to conduct terror attacks while providing funding and propaganda support to other elements of al-Qaeda in Yemen. The civil war in Sudan continues, even as external negotiations occur. ISIS in West Africa and the Sahel have increased the intensity of their attacks against local security forces, expanding their areas of operation and moving closer to cities with a U.S. presence. The IC assesses that African governments will likely use their wealth in critical minerals to seek partnerships that deliver them meaningful benefit. Concurrent conflicts and crises across the continent will continue to put U.S. citizens at risk and cause further instability. In closing, as leaders of the intelligence community, we remain committed to providing the president and policymakers with timely, unbiased, relevant intelligence to inform decision-making and to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gabbard. General Adams, Camden, Arkansas is the home of brand new production lines for the Israeli missile defense interceptors. Could you please explain how critical arrow and Iron Dome systems being built in Camden are for not only Israel's defenses, but the defense of hundreds of thousands of American citizens and troops in the region?
Chairman Cotton, thank you for that question. And I have to say that the Arrow system and the Iron Dome system are critical defensive systems that prevent adversary power projection from impacting the targets in the friendly areas in Israel. The Arrow system itself is the high altitude, primarily against MRBMs, and it's proven to be very, very effective against those systems. The Iron Dome is more of a closed system, protecting against rockets and things of that nature. But the combination of those two with U.S. systems creates a shield to prevent those attacks from the Iranians impacting key areas in areas where they're protected.
Thank you, General Adams. I was recently in Camden with Secretary Hegseth as part of his Arsenal of Freedom tour, and they are great Arkansans who do great work to keep our nation safe. General Hartman, we've often spoken about our pressing need for more cybersecurity manpower and part-time formation, such as the Arkansas Air National 223rd Cyberspace Operations Squadron, are a great way to grow the force. What recommendations do you have to grow these cyber protection teams and develop more capacity for local and national missions?
Chairman Cotton, thanks for the question. I did hear a little bit about the great team in Arkansas there, and I know 855 CPT operates from that formation. And so for us, certainly looking at a number of different initiatives. One, ensure that we can share all of the relevant top secret classified information and other sort of indications and warning that the organizations need. But I will tell you, I'm an advocate for an ability to establish some sort of joint reserve cyber organization, and so that at Cybercom we can ensure that those organizations have all of the advanced training that they need to ensure that those organizations have access to all of the intelligence that they need, and to ensure that we control some level of funding at both Cybercom and NSA that can be used to mobilize those personnel to handle the most difficult problems that we're faced with. And we have been working with Congress on some of that language and the department, and we appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, General Hartman. As I said in my opening, we only have this one public hearing a year, even though the committee hears from each of you several times throughout the year in classified settings. So we don't often have a chance to tell the American people what great work their intelligence professionals are doing for them. So Director Ratcliffe, could you take the opportunity to maybe join in the excellent Secretary Hegseth and General Kane have provided on a regular basis over the last couple months on the military aspects of both the Maduro raid and Operation Epic Fury to explain the CIA's contributions to those operations?
Thank you, Senator. Last year when I was here in my confirmation, I promised you all, and you had all asked for, a more aggressive CIA, one that was focused on core mission, getting back to the business of stealing secrets, to be able to provide our policymakers with a decisive strategic advantage that would allow and advance and contribute to foreign policy and national security successes. To the credit of the CIA workforce, the CIA has delivered. Some of those successes have been very public. As you mentioned, Senator, Operation Midnight Hammer, Operation Absolute Resolve, flawless military operations like that are hostage to a flawless intelligence picture. And the CIA, as you know from briefings, contributed in myriad ways to the success of that. But what I would say to you is those successes are just emblematic of the phenomenal progress. I didn't know.
I thought it'd be more tremendously popular among the Republican base. Wow. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, overseeing the effort. It seems to me that a lot of people are taking that into account, including President Donald Trump, who has been smiling an awful lot at Marco Rubio lately.
Marco Rubio, in a rant, follow for more political crack. MAGA supports Trump.
Up by 25%.
Operations in Iran by 89%.
MAGA GOP on the U.S. military action.
Areas like tech and AI up 45%. On the counter-narcotics front, our operations up by 70%. And with regard to counterterrorism, those are classified numbers that I'll share with you in the classified portion of this hearing, but they're off the charts good. The best way I can summarize it, Senator, is I had a 32-year veteran of the agency retire this year, and he said to me, I hate to go. I don't know if this is the best year that the CIA's ever had, but it's the best year I can ever remember. And I think that reflects the current morale of the CIA. It's a workforce that knows it's doing a great job. It knows that it's being allowed to do what they signed up to do, which is provide that decisive strategic advantage to our country for great successes that everyone can see. So I thank you for the opportunity to let me recognize the CIA workforce.
Thank you. Director Ratcliffe, I want to address one specific threat from Iran, the threat of an intercontinental missile, which is really just the combination of two technologies, one thrust to get something into space and a reentry vehicle to get it back to Earth. Iran has always had a space launch program, which is flimsy cover for the first part of that intercontinental missile program. I haven't seen any Iranian astronauts in space lately. And second, they have medium-range ballistic missiles, which already have a reentry vehicle. So if you crudely married those two technologies together, I've heard some analysts say that Iran could have had a functioning intercontinental missile to threaten the United States in as few as 6 months. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, you're right to be concerned about Iran's development of longer-range ballistic missiles, Senator. If Iran were allowed to develop at the IRBM ranges, which is 3,000 kilometers, it would threaten most of Europe. And yes, as you mentioned, we know that Iran is gaining experience in these larger, more powerful booster technologies through its so-called space launch vehicle program. If left unimpeded, yes, Senator, they would have the ability to range missiles to the continental U.S. It's one of the reasons why degrading Iran's missile production capabilities that is taking place right now in Operation Epic Fury is so important to our national security.
Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, the whole country knows that you were recently involved in an FBI operation to seize ballots in Fulton County, Georgia.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yet this was despite the fact that the warrant showed no foreign interference or nexus. Matter of fact, the warrant was based entirely on conspiracy theories that have already been examined and rejected repeatedly. Now, where is the authority for you to involve yourself in a domestic law enforcement activity?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I appreciate the question. As you know, I've addressed every issue you've raised in detail in a letter, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it in this forum. As you stated, Congress provided by statute ODNI with the responsibility of election security and counterintelligence in 2021. As you also know, ODNI has purview and oversight.
I know the history very well, but could you just
I am addressing the question. ODNI also has purview and overview over two domestic related agencies, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, both of which have purview over election security responsibilities to ensure the integrity of our elections. I want to correct one of your statements that you've made multiple times, which is false. I did not participate in a law enforcement activity, nor within my authorities.
You were present on the scene. Are the photos of you on the scene false?
I was at Fulton County, sir, at the request of the president, and to work with the FBI to observe this action that had long been awaited. I was not aware of what was in the warrant or was not in the warrant.
And what was the president's specific request for you to go to? What was the specific request that was made by the president for you to show up in Fulton County?
To go and observe the FBI's activities on this issue.
So when you look
at the four, your question, sir.
Do you have the answer why the president was knowing about this affidavit before it was even served?
I'm not aware that the president knew about an affidavit before it was served.
Then why was he sending you to Fulton County?
This occurred the day that the FBI had it approved, their warrant approved by a local judge, and they began to execute this. To address your question, sir, about the foreign nexus question, in order for us to better understand the vulnerabilities in our election systems that may exist today as we look to 2026, and yes, we are very focused on trying to make sure that this election is one that the American people have faith.
Director Gabbard, I've got a number of questions. Director Gabbard, I have a number of questions. Let me ask my next question, please. You have not provided any of the required reports or briefings to this committee on foreign interference. This is the first threat assessment since 2017 that didn't even mention foreign interference. Last year, when you were in already confirm. It mentioned it at high level. Are you saying there is no foreign threat to our elections in the midterms this year?
As I stated in the outset of my remarks, this year's annual threat assessment matches the prioritization of threats and
Please answer the question, yes or no. Is there foreign threat interference to our elections this year?
Laid out.
Are there foreign?
Please allow me to answer the question, sir. The intelligence community has been and continues to remain focused on any collection and intelligence products that show a potential foreign threat for those who are
so far there has been none then, because you've made no reports. Excuse me, ma'am. If you want to ask the questions, you should have stayed in Congress. Please answer the question.
I didn't ask you a question, sir. I'm trying to answer your questions.
So you're saying the failure to provide any report to have any mention of a foreign threat assessment, I would draw the conclusion there must be no foreign threat to our elections in 26. So that brings me a question that I have for both you, ma'am, and Director Patel. There are reports that in 2020, the president was preparing an executive order to potentially seize ballots or bring in federal forces. There is a published report that there is a similar EO being drafted right now about 2026, citing China. Director Patel, do you have any knowledge of that draft EO?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I do not, sir.
Director Gabbard, do you have any?
I do not.
Thank you. Let me move to Iran. Now, I understand, and I appreciated Director Gabbard's comments yesterday about agreeing that the president has sole authority, I guess, in his bones to declare whether something is an imminent threat. I didn't agree with your friend, Mr. Kent, but I agreed with him yesterday on the fact that there was no imminent threat. I guess what I'm concerned about, one thing is, even in your printed testimony today on page 6, and your last paragraph on page 6, as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There's been no efforts to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. You omitted that paragraph from your oral opening. Was that because the president said there was an imminent threat 2 weeks?
No, sir. I recognize that the time was running long, and I skipped through some of the portions.
So you chose to take
my oral delivered remarks.
You chose to omit the parts that contradict the president. The president continues to say as well that he had no idea, was shocked that the Iranians had moved to take over the Strait of Hormuz. Did you provide any intelligence that would say that it would be that it was not likely that the Iranians would try to move on the strait?
I'm not aware of those remarks, and I think those of us here at the table can point to the fact that historically the Iranians have always threatened to leverage their control of
why would the president say he was amazed?
I'm not aware of those remarks.
What about the comments the president made that he was surprised again, reports that Iran struck the adjacent Gulf states?
Again, I'm not aware of those remarks. We have
let me ask you this. Did you brief the president? Did you brief the president if he starts a war of choice, that the likely result would be that Iran would strike adjacent Gulf nations and close the Strait of Hormuz? Did you brief him on those two facts that I think have been consistently the assumptions of the intelligence community?
I have not and won't divulge internal conversations. I will say that those of us within the intelligence community continue to provide the president with all of the best objective intelligence available to inform his decisions.
Senator Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, you just testified that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are significantly weaker. And reflecting that
sober down.
You have devoted declining budgets, personnel, and emphasis on countering terrorism. Yet the fact is that ISIS is growing and operating in Somalia, Afghanistan, Syria, Pakistan, and Iraq. Al-Qaeda is surging in Afghanistan, the Arabian Peninsula, and throughout Central Africa. The Houthis in Yemen and the rest of the Iranian proxies remain a serious threat. Focusing, as you have done, on great power competitors seems to have diverted resources from the fight against terrorism, a fight that's very much still going on. As I have said repeatedly, it is terrorists who want and can kill Americans today. We've just seen the terrorists in Michigan attacking.
Thank you guys. We're 3 hours and 13 minutes in. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
That a more stovepiped effort in the Intelligence Committee has returned. How are you ensuring
Subscribe if you haven't.
are safe?
Monday through Thursday, I go live in the morning.
Are counterterrorism threats to our homeland and to U.S. citizens abroad?
Thank you, Senator Collins, for your question and the opportunity to clarify the comments in my opening statement. My reference to the size of ISIS and Al-Qaeda organizationally is smaller and weaker than it was during its peak over a decade ago. However, I completely concur with your remarks about the threat of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other Islamist terrorist groups around the world, and the threat that they pose to U.S. interest, service members, and directly to the homeland. Our ODNI National Counterterrorism Center has been at the forefront of ramping up, and I believe is more active today than it has been certainly in a long time. We are dedicating every resource that they ask for, as well as the counterterrorism elements across the IC, to make sure that we are never taking our eye off of this persistent threat to the American people. The change in tactics based on the current environment is something we continue to be most concerned about. We are seeing less indicators of large-scale organized complex threats or attacks, and instead efforts focused on individuals either who have been radicalized by Islamist propaganda and may not have ever had contact with ISIS or Al-Qaeda, for example, and others who have had contact, of which we are able to have more indications of. This remains and will be, and as we come to present our budgets to you, a foremost and primary priority. The integration across the intelligence community on the counterterrorism threat occurs every single day, with our teams working very effectively together to thwart terrorist attacks as we have over the last year.
Director Patel, I'm going to follow up on this issue with you. ISIS targets potential recruits online through social media, gaming platforms, encrypted messaging apps. ISIS even facilitated a network online to smuggle illegal immigrants into the United States. Since April 2021, there have been more than 52 jihadist-inspired cases across 30 states. What measures is the FBI taking to prevent foreign terrorist organizations from recruiting or influencing Americans, while also ensuring the protection of individuals' right to privacy?
Thank you, Senator. And I think you said it best. They have transferred their capabilities in terms of personal recruitments to online recruitments, which makes any terrorist organization, including ISIS, all the more powerful. What we have done is extended and expanded resources to environments like the Threat Screening Center, which allows us to collect biometric capabilities from all over the world. We've had a double-digit increase in that and a double-digit increase in intelligence production. But what we've also done in the CT space specifically is expand the number of agents and intel analysts that go online and detect based on our biometric capabilities and intelligence that we have from the interagency. And what that leads us to is what we saw in December of last year, Senator, where we at the FBI stopped 4 terrorist attacks, 4 in California, Texas, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, 3 of which were ISIS inspired. We were able to detect these individuals both online and in person using our covert platforms, and we shuttered a bombing campaign in Southern California and 2 mass casualty events for New Year's Eve.
Director Gabbard, the intelligence community did not detect an extremely serious breach affecting our telecommunications industry due to the Chinese Salt Typhoon incursions for a very long time. In addition, the Chinese Volt Typhoon threat poses a terrible threat to U.S. critical infrastructure. Specific sectors throughout the United States have been overlooked and underprotected. What are you doing to deal with the threat to critical infrastructure, our electric grid, our communication systems, given this huge miss by our talented intelligence community?
Thank you, Senator Collins, for the question. Working with our partners at NSA and others to detect these threats and how they may be evolve or developing is something we're continuing to work on. Building strong partnerships with the private sector, whether it be in the telecom industry, the financial sector, the healthcare sector, the energy sector, is something that I'm rebuilding. We've seen some of these ongoing relationships falter over previous years. I've personally been astounded by some of the conversations I've had with leaders from these industries who are just as concerned as we are about these threats to our critical infrastructure, and yet don't feel that they have the connectivity or the information to be able to secure their own infrastructure. So in short, building those stronger partnerships, integrating and being able to share information intelligence where we can is critical for us to be able to secure our country from these threats.
Thank you, Senator Collins. Senator White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, last year your agencies testified, and I quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies, through the Strait of Hormuz. In other words, every problem we're seeing now was not only foreseeable, but was actually predicted by the intelligence agencies. So, Director, in the lead up to the start of this war 3 weeks ago, did the intelligence agencies stick to their assessment? When it comes to an attack, the Iranians had the capability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz.
Thank you, Senator White. And the intelligence community has continued to provide the president and his team with the intelligence related to this operation in Iran before and on an ongoing basis.
So right now, we're in a global energy crisis. We're paying more for gas. The economy is in danger. And it seems to me, and I heard you discuss this with Senator Warner too, that there's a lot of hedging going on with respect to entirely foreseen consequences of the war. And that strikes me, Madam Director, as what amounts to a historic mistake. Now, my second question is, did the intelligence agencies assess that the Iranians could respond to a regime change attack from us by attacking U.S. forces and other Americans in the region?
The IC assessment has always taken very seriously the threat of the Iranian regime's missile capabilities and how our American troops within the region may be put at risk.
Again, it seems to me with Americans dying in the war, it's hard to see how you can sit here and say that the intelligence agencies couldn't provide a clear warning that if attacked, the Iranians would respond by attacking our people. Now on Monday, Madam Director, Donald Trump was asked about Iranian strikes on the Gulf states. He said, and I quote, no, the greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit the Gulf states. You all are supposed to be the greatest experts. That's what we have you there for. Director Gabbard, did the intelligence agencies assess that Iran could conduct strikes on our own partners in the region if it was attacked?
The intelligence community has continued to assess the potential threats to the region, the existing threats to the region, and providing those assessments to the policymakers and decision makers.
Let me move on to several others of you with respect to 702 of FISA, and I'm going to start with you, General Hartman. Congress last reauthorized Section 702 of FISA. It included a provision that expanded the type of companies and individuals who could be forced to assist the government in its spying. Has this expansion resulted in any intelligence, General Hartman?
Senator, thanks for the question. Just to be clear, this provision provided us an ability to collect foreign intelligence on personnel outside of the United States.
This is the major 702 issue in terms of expansion. What was the effect of what was done?
Senator, I would prefer to talk to you about exact specifics in the closed session.
I'm happy to do that. Let's understand, though, this is a dangerously broad provision that could be used to rope in anybody with access to a cable box, a Wi-Fi router, or a server. It was jammed into the 2024 reauthorization bill at the last minute. Senators were told they had no choice but to support it. And now, 2 years later, we just had testimony from a very respected individual who's saying, so far it has had no value. So colleagues, we are getting ready to have another discussion on this, and this ought to be a warning to every senator that not every new spying power that is sold as urgent and critical actually is.
Senator, could I please respond to that?
Of course.
So Senator, I just want to be clear. It provided us no additional authority that doesn't involve collecting intelligence on foreigners that are outside of the United States of America.
Fine. Director Patel, a question for you. 2023, your predecessor testified that, and I quote, "To my knowledge, we do not currently purchase commercial database information that includes location data derived from internet advertising." Is that the case still? And if so, can you commit this morning to not buying Americans' location data?
The FBI uses all tools, Senator, thank you for the question, to do our mission. We do purchase commercially available information that's consistent with the Constitution and the laws under the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, and it has led to some valuable intelligence for us to be utilized with our private partner sector.
So you're saying that the agency will buy Americans' location data. I believe that that's what you've said in kind of intelligence lingo, and I just want to say, as we start this debate, doing that without a warrant is an outrageous end run around the Fourth Amendment. It's particularly dangerous given the use of artificial intelligence to comb through massive amounts of private information. This is Exhibit A for why Congress needs to pass our bipartisan, bicameral bill, the Government Surveillance Reform Act. I have time, I believe, for one more question, Director Patel. You, 3 weeks ago, indicated you were dissatisfied about having your phone records subpoenaed. Do you think the government ought to get a court order to collect phone records?
Senator, in my experience, the government does get court orders to obtain phone records.
One last question.
Thank you, Kingdom Heart Pro. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you.
Search domestic location data. It is still your agency's
Thank
position
you.
that you can buy Americans' location data without a warrant, and if so, are you still doing it?
Really appreciate
Senator,
it.
thanks for the question. With regards to commercially available information and publicly available information, the purchases that my agency makes is in alignment with the Constitution and protects U.S. persons' information. So,
but you're buying location data, correct? I mean, we've now had that referred to twice, and I don't think there's any question that you're doing it.
all of the purchasing of commercially available information by the agency is passed through legal channels and is in complete compliance with laws.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
General Hartman, I want to give you a chance to answer more specifically what Senator Wyden said. You did answer it indirectly. Does anything in Section 702 give the government the authority to target any American with a cable box or a Wi-Fi router?
Chairman, nothing in 702 gives us the authority to target an American with a cable router or a Wi-Fi device.
Thank you. And I would observe about commercially available data that the keywords are commercially available. If any other person can buy it and the FBI can buy it and it helps them locate a depraved child molester or savage cartel leader, I would certainly hope the FBI is doing anything they can to keep Americans safe. It's not much different from longstanding Supreme Court precedent, that, for instance, says law enforcement can go through trash that you put on the side of the curb because you no longer have a privacy interest in it. Senator Cornyn.
Thank you all for your service to our country and the people you represent. We are in debt to all of you. I want to ask you, Director Ratcliffe, yesterday, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center resigned, saying that Iran did not represent an imminent threat to the United States. Is there anything to indicate that Iran had ceased in its nuclear ambitions or in its desire to continue to build ballistic missiles capable of threatening American troops and allies in the Middle East?
Senator, no. In fact, the intelligence reflects the contrary.
So you disagree with Mr. Kent?
I do.
I would think any fair-minded assessment of the situation, even based on open sources, would reflect the danger Iran regime poses to the United States. Isn't it true they've basically been at war with the West since 1979 during the Iranian Revolution and have American blood on their hands?
That's absolutely correct. I think Iran has been a constant threat to the United States for an extended period of time and posed an immediate threat at this time.
The threat assessment says that Al-Qaeda and ISIS maintain the intent to launch operations targeting the U.S., but it's most likely to occur through U.S.-based lone offenders. I want to ask you, Director Patel, it seems like there's been a raft of incidents recently. On March the 1st in Austin, Texas, where I live, a lone gunman wearing a sweatshirt saying "Property of Allah," and who the T-shirt he wore underneath had an Iranian flag, killed 3 innocent people and injured 12 more. And then we know in Virginia, the Old Dominion shooting, somebody who unbelievably was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison for attempting to support ISIS, but then was released only to commit another terrorist attack. We all are familiar with what's happened in Michigan, in New York, and I applaud the important role that the FBI has played in stopping some terrorist attacks, but obviously the FBI can't be everywhere all the time. Would you please talk about your cooperation and collaboration with Homeland Security investigations in countering terrorist attacks against the United States?
Thank you, Senator. Absolutely. It is essential that the FBI cooperates with the entire interagency. But as to your question about DHS specifically, what we have stood up around the country are 59 Homeland Security task forces in 59 separate locations.
These are joint terrorism task forces.
Essentially, the JTTF model was expanded. So the FBI owns 56 joint terrorism task forces in each of our field offices. On top of that, we have 59 HSTFs, which are co-led by the FBI and DHS. And what that allows us to do is things like we did down in New Orleans just over the holiday period, where we surged for a 6-week period of time, and where we dropped the murder rate by double-digit points. And also is the first time that Mardi Gras in its entire history had not one homicide. So when you bring the powers of the Homeland Security folks, DHS, and the FBI together, this is the purpose of it, to get after not just the terrorism threat, but the violence and the criminal activity in our cities. And that's why we're in 59 cities across the country, and it's working in places like Memphis and every other city we have it.
Are you aware of the fact that Homeland Security investigation is a major directorate within Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And are you aware that Senate Democrats have uniformly voted not to fund the Department of Homeland Security, including Homeland Security investigations, TSA, FEMA, and other functions of the Department of Homeland Security?
Senator, I'm aware that employees of DHS are 1 month without pay.
They're not being paid, right?
Yes, sir.
And we were all seeing what's happening at airports where people are having to wait hours at a time because of the fact that these TSA agents are overburdened. But what I wanted to focus on with you is the refusal to fund the functions of the Department of Homeland Security, including Homeland Security investigations, making Americans less safe?
Absolutely.
So give us an example of some of the cooperation that you all have engaged in with the FBI has engaged in with the Homeland Security investigations. I'm looking at an article here that talks about the 190,000 Afghan nationals that were admitted to the United States, literally unvetted, and there are examples of individuals within that 190,000 who committed terrorist attacks against the United States and against American citizens. Is that the sort of thing that you are investigating with HSI?
Senator, that's one of the many things we're investigating with HSI, DHS, CBP, ICE.
Give me some other examples of the collaboration on what other topics, including in addition to terrorism attacks.
What we're allowed to do with our DHS partners, Senator, is enable their massive workforce to supplement ours. And what they're allowed to do is share intelligence on things that you just talked about the 100,000+ illegals that came in from Afghanistan during the Afghanistan withdrawal. Unfortunately, they weren't vetted thoroughly. So what we're doing is going back with our DHS partners and vetting absolutely every single one of them to the best that we can. But unfortunately, we're not able to go out into the country and find every single one of these individuals. But we need more than 12,000 FBI agents to do that job, which is why we are utilizing the 100,000 or so 1811s at the Department of Homeland Security to give us the information they have from their immigration records, from their travel records, from their travel logs overseas and within the country. And what we're able to do is remove these individuals off the streets.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good afternoon. Forgive me.
To include Trende Aragua, to include ISIS-affiliated individuals, to include Al-Qaeda-related affiliated individuals, and hopefully we do it before and not after, like the tragedy that we witnessed in Washington.
It's all good. Thank you. It's all good. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
To our country and shot multiple members of our uniformed military service.
Thank you, Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do need to point out in response to some of the previous comments, twice in the last 2 weeks, as recently as last Thursday, Senator Patty Murray, the Appropriations Committee, put a bill on the floor that would have fully funded TSA, FEMA, CISA, and the Coast Guard for the rest of the year, leaving the focus on the dispute that we have with the conduct of ICE as separately. So inexplicably to me, that bill was blocked by my Republican colleagues. It would have, as I say, fully funded TSA, FEMA, CISA, Coast Guard, and then focus the attention on the situation with ICE. So I just want to be clear on who's blocking funding for those four agencies.
There is no situation with ICE.
I'd like to ask Ms. Gabbard and Director Ratcliffe, Director, both of you, were either of you in the room or your designees when the president was making the final decision about taking this action against Iran on February 27th, 28th? Was there an intelligence committee, intelligence community present in those deliberations? Mr. Ratcliffe, your response?
Senator King, probably in dozens and dozens of briefings with the president. I don't know if there was a single meeting where there was a single time where a decision
were those dozens of meetings right during the lead up to this war? I know you've met many times, but I'm talking about it in the 2 weeks or so before the decision to go into Iran.
Again, countless meetings with the president
during that period.
Director
Gabbard, were you present in those discussions?
Likewise, yes.
The reason I'm asking the question is there seems to be a discrepancy between what the Intelligence Committee community has reported over the years and what the president has said in terms of his of this action. For example, Senator Wyden read the report from a year ago that strikes against neighboring states and action to close the Strait of Hormuz was predicted by the intelligence community. And yet the president says nobody knew. And my question is, did you tell him? Anybody want to answer that?
Senator, I'll answer the question. So with regard to briefings, the president gets briefings constantly about intelligence. Now, the comments that you talked about, I had not heard, but what I can tell you is that Iran had specific plans to hit U.S. interests in energy sites across the region, and that's...
Well, you guys, I've been live streaming about 3 hours and 39 minutes. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'm finna get off. My wife finna get off work. I'm finna get some lunch started for her. I really appreciate you guys. Again, name is Deunta. Thank you for the super chats. I'll be back tomorrow around 8 in the morning with some more stuff for you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's grow.